What's happening, weirdos? This is Ryan Hurst, who you may know from Remember the Titans or Sons of Anarchy, or as the voice of the Norse god Thor in God of War Ragnarok. That's where I knew him from. He's incredible. He's funny. He's talented. He's insightful. He's a Kundalini yoga instructor. He's got alien stories. He's got so much to share. This is a 3-hour episode. We haven't had one of those in a long time, but it turns out Ryan is a big fan of the show. We had a lot to cover, and he came to play. I'm so glad you guys are here for this wonderful episode. Only a couple things to plug up top. We just added another night in Chicago. Friday and Saturday sold out. So if you'd like to see me on Thursday, May 23rd, we added a night. Go to PeteHolmes.com. We also have Dana Beach, Florida at the Dania? Is it Dana or Dania? Dania? It's in Florida. Go to PeteHolmes.com. I'll be there April 12th and 13th. And also May 4th, I'll be in LA for the Netflix is a Joke Fest. All of those have tickets at PeteHolmes.com. I also have my Largo show. March 23rd is the March date. But every month I'm at Largo in Los Angeles. Go to largo-la.com. Those are always the highlights of my month. Last time we had Adam Sandler. It's just always so fun. So I hope you can make it to one of those. And in the meantime, enjoy this chat with the incredible Ryan Hurst. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've checked out my hair a couple times. Modern Mammals. Get some Modern Mammals. It's no joke. Best shampoo in the world. modernmammals.com. All right, go. This is Ryan Hurst. That's it. Get into it. You just have dog treats with you?
Yes, and I know we're rolling already. Okay, All right, look.
No one's ever said that.
Look, all right, okay.
And I know we're rolling.
Okay, yeah, and there's mold in the ceiling. And
we're having it fixed.
Yes, okay, and that is.
Wait, I've talked about the mold?
Yeah. Okay, hello.
We're literally having it fixed.
Yes, ready?
This is Scout for. Is Scout in the shot?
Yes.
Scout gets a little cameo. Oh,
good job.
Okay, so you were about to say, I want to know why you carry dog treats other than that's an incredible thing to do.
Because I knew that Scout was going to be here. I was hoping Brody would be here. But so I have so much. Okay.
Get it. Buddy, it's Friday. This is all we're doing.
Dude, I am so unbearably excited.
Oh.
To do this but I mean like, I messaged you. I messaged you. Okay, so this was all under the.
Message you?
I messaged
you. Messaged me.
Yeah, and it was all under the guise of like, just talking about relating to comedy.
Yeah.
It was a fucking ruse.
It was a ruse.
Good
for you.
Yeah.
I just mean like that's what I was just talking to my friend.
Yeah.
How many opportunities in my life have come out from just kind of being around?
Yeah.
And we were like walking back all these like, I don't know what you want to call them, but you could call them a coincidence or just
synchronicities.
Synchronicities.
Yeah, sure.
But they all had one thing in common, which was like, we out here.
Yeah.
Just kind of being around.
Yeah.
And sending a message to me was being out here. And I checked out your page.
Yeah.
So you're saying you were kind of like, I am the pod?
Yeah. So.
Is that not right? Tell me.
So I really don't know where to start. The only thing that I can say is, let me start by saying this.
Yeah. Just turning my phone on.
Yeah, go for it. Is, I live in Juju land, was born and raised there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that experience, that phenomenal experience of being a spirit having a human experience. But to hear, and I'm shaky as I say this because I've never met somebody who, and when I read your book.
You read my book?
Yeah.
Shut up.
But I really need to start this up just from heart to heart to say, I have never heard somebody give voice to a very, very private, intimate feeling that I have had my entire life, is this insatiable, tender wonder that you have for what is all of this.
What is this? That's what I was going to ask you. Is that what lit you up?
From the get-go.
Yeah.
But then, and I've been a fan of yours. I started listening to this podcast when it started.
No way.
And have, I live in synchronicity land. And I remember after reading your book, my wife goes, "Oh, what did you think?" And I went, "Dude, I'm fucking weirded out." And I never get weirded out. And I was like, and she was like, "Why?" And I was like, the similarities between him and I in regards to experience and perspective are something that I've never dealt with before. And whether it's just been fucking weird for me. And I mean, like, literally these little tiny things that are these very private thoughts, whether they're small and inane to large, whether I'm just interested, from a psycho-spiritual, like, sociological experiment. Is like, you're, oh gosh, where to start?
What was one of those thoughts that pulled right out of your head? The similarities, I guess.
When Joseph Campbell changed my life.
Yeah, me too.
I
was just thinking about him.
And to riff on that for just a second, was like, for me, one of the reasons why I was so excited and intrigued by getting to meet you is, these sort of archetypal, metaphorical, mystical stories, and that have similar themes is one of the things that you never see in a lot of stories. Is Luke Skywalker doesn't meet another Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Is Frodo doesn't meet another Frodo.
Yeah.
So I'm.
You're right.
I'm
Frodo don't meet no other Frodos.
Yeah, it's one of my.
There are other Frodos.
Sure.
You just don't meet them.
No, but it's the only. I'm hoping. I'm wondering if this meeting is going to turn out to be a little bit. Did you see Shaun of the Dead?
I have seen it. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, in Shaun of the Dead, like, they're making their way to the pub. They're all together, and they meet an alternate version of all of the same characters.
This.
And I was like, I wonder if this is going to be like that.
It's also Seinfeld.
Yes,
where
yes.
Elaine's friends with another group.
Correct.
You're so right. There are these microclimates,
right?
And they don't really interact because they don't. We already have a Kramer.
Yeah.
We already have a George.
Yeah. But it is so. Joseph Campbell changed my life. Your face melting sort of guru experience. Exact same thing happened to me when I met my teacher.
You mean with when Ram Dass's face was melting?
Yeah.
That's the painting of what he looked
there goes.
like.
Old Dickie Albert.
Dickie Albert. Yeah, there he is. But that happened to you as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Not with him and not with
for those of
Maharaji,
you, for the millions of you who haven't read my book, I'm just kidding. But the story is that I was sitting with Ram Dass, and his face was very irregular. We were gazing at each other, so that's not entirely unusual. But then he turned into my dad and stuff. It was literally trippy. It was far out.
Yeah.
And really cool.
Yeah.
And really special.
When the circumstances leading up to me meeting my teacher were just as strange. And again, like, I had sort of essentially what amounted to your Duncan Trussell was my best friend, whose name is Jackson, who's still I've known him since second grade and is one of the strangest, most.
Okay, so let's jump in because in the Star Wars analogy, I feel like Duncan is Han Solo.
Okay, sure.
Because there's something, and I would say this if Duncan, I wish Duncan was here, he'd love this, but there's something a little wicked about Duncan.
Yeah, sure, of course.
He's a smuggler.
Yeah.
A smuggler.
Yeah.
He's like I'm not saying he's a full coyote.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit like a weird coyote.
Sure.
You know, I mentioned in the book that like before we started, he put 3 drops of THC on his hand and just licked it off.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, that was kind of weird. I'm not a big weed guy.
Yeah.
But like that wouldn't weird me out as much.
Yeah.
But here's this guy being like, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
He's like lift off.
Yeah, sure.
And there's like crystal balls and all this stuff. So here's this. You could also do the Matrix, and I think in the book I liken him to Morpheus, which is also a criminal.
Yep.
That's kind of being like,
Yep.
I'm going to show you how to get off this planet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So your friend Jackson was your
it's Cheshire Cat.
Han Solo.
It's Cheshire Cat,
exactly.
Or the caterpillar is who are you?
Yeah,
It's that
cool.
it's that mentor friend character. But
Yes.
he's always been that to me. He is one of I've known him since 2nd grade, and I still cannot tell you anything about what he's going to do, which way he's going to go.
Yeah.
He's just an Andy Kaufman, Buster Keaton type. Yeah. He's just unreadable.
I feel the same way about Duncan.
Yeah.
I'm doing stand up on helicopters.
Yeah,
What? I don't even know. I don't even think he's doing anything that weird.
Yeah.
Maybe he's settled down. But he's one of those that my squareness kind of gets challenged by Duncan because he's out there.
Yeah.
And he'll
sure.
burn things down too.
Isn't that the best?
It is the best. But I'm the Skywalker that's going like power converters. I'm a lot squarer than Duncan is.
Yeah.
But go on. And is that how you feel about Jackson? Is he?
Yeah, for the most part, and he was the one who. It was so funny. I was going to the gym, and he would always go do whatever you're going to do. We'll hang out later. And this day he was like, I'm coming to the gym with you, and I was like, all right. And he was wearing jeans, and I was like, all right. And he's like, I'm coming to the gym. I was like, great. So we go to the gym, and I'm working out, and I look at him, and he's on the treadmill, and he's in jeans, and he's running full tilt, and he's got a giant book in his back pocket, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And I like walk up to him on the thing. I go like, you all right? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, oh yeah, here, take this. He goes like, hold this for me. I was like, okay. And I look at it, and it was Christopher Vogler's the Journey of the Writer, which you read the back, and it's just it's a movie interpretation of Hero of 1,000 Faces.
Oh, okay.
And the journey begins.
Wow.
And
I don't know about that because I tried to read Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Yeah.
And it's not without a little embarrassment that I say it was a little too thick for me.
Yeah.
Because Joey Cams, I like Pop Joseph Campbell.
You motherfucker! When you said Joey Cams,
Joey Cams.
I was like, who is this man? I mean, when you hear this a lot, but it's in a spiritual sense. You know how alcoholics a lot of the time when they go to AA, they say somebody gets up there and they tell their story.
Yeah.
And they go like, oh my God, I thought that these were so private. Is to hear
the
way that you relate to it. I'm going like, what the fuck is going on?
I love
whether
that.
Whether it's Joy Cams, whether it's Ram Dass, whether it's I remember in your book when you're talking about, saying something, accessing the 5th dimension about, sort of like saying something. And who is that voice in the head?
Yeah.
Using the analogy of who is it seeing out your own, looking out your eyes. I use the thing of closer than the air you breathe. Is that to you talking? I remember I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you'd said you were talking about cold plunges. Been enormous.
It's funny you gestured to where it used to be. It used to be right out there.
Yeah, and enormous part of my life. And I remember,
Is it really?
Dude,
Not because of that, because of everything you've said. I'm
for
just
15 years, and I'm sitting
before it was cool.
Yeah.
No, before it was ice cold.
Yeah.
That's incredible. No way.
And I'm sitting there going, I bet he doesn't know about that you have to move because there's a thermal layer. And I was like, did
I talk about the thermal layer?
I was like, what? So
yeah, after 90 seconds, you got to shift around a little bit.
Yeah,
but you don't want to.
No. So, but Hero with 1,000 Faces is thick. It's meant to be thick.
Right. It's academic.
Yeah.
I just like the pop culture Joey Cams. I like when he's coming to like bring out. And then there's a series of DVDs that are a little bit thicker. It's not Power Myth. It's another one, and it's called something like Logos or something.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just him teaching, and it's really fun and really cool, but not as condensed. Power Myth. They're always steering it back to Christ.
Yep.
They're always steering it back to like relatable Western things,
Yeah.
Star Wars and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
very digestible.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard me say, it's probably on my bookshelf. It is. The Power of Myth. See the black one up by the little singing bowl there?
Yep.
That's the transcription of the full Power of Myth conversation, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. That's a great way to get, if anyone's interested in him. So what did he do for you? Were you like me, that you were like, religion's bullshit, and then this like, what is Joey in the? He's like an elf or something.
Who? Joey Camps?
He's a wizard, maybe.
Joey Camps is the mentor, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
He's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, he's Obi-Wan.
He's
Yeah.
It's funny when you look at your book too, follows the hero's journey.
It does.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, it really does.
I was like, did he do that on purpose? I don't know. But
Somebody said that about Crashing too, and I was like, we didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what makes myths true.
yeah.
Is they're not true, and then they're truer than true. They're truth so big they can only be told with lies. But then sometimes when you look at your life, you realize that it was true. It was it was also literally true.
Absolutely.
And Artie in Crashing was sort of like the Obi-Wan, and they're different.
Yeah.
Not the Obi-Wan. I'm sorry, he was the Han Solo. But anyway, when you found Joey Cams, where were you in your life, and what did he do for you?
So, I mean, I was always, when I was younger, I was always, enamored with and kind of just.
By the way, I don't feel like I gave enough attention to how great that treadmill story was.
Oh yeah,
As he gives you this book, this life-changing book.
Yeah, everything that
In jeans,
dude,
running full force like a gazelle.
everything that this dude does is like a Cohen. Is. He's just, we'll get to it at some point. But I remember I'm a skydiver. I've been a skydiver for 25 years.
No way.
And I do lots of weird stuff. I've been a skydiver for a long time. I'm a positive reinforcement dog trainer. I've been a Kundalini yoga instructor, all of this kind of stuff.
Oh, no way.
I remember when I was going skydiving, and he was just going for his first time, and he was going tandem with somebody strapped to his back. And I'm like, and I get there, and I already have my license and the kind of thing. I open up the side of the plane, and I'm all like, jazzed up, and I'm like, all right, buddy, like, I'll see you on the ground. And he's like, that's where we're going, right? I'm like,
As calm as can be. That's where we're going, right?
Yeah. That's it. I was like, that's why I love this dude.
That's
he's such a beautiful. Just to give my best friend some love here is. He's not an actor anymore. He just kind of does his own thing, but he tried acting for a long time. He is one of the funniest people. He's the Bill Murray type. Is the guy
dry?
Well, just is Bill decides it's funny, and then it's funny.
Yeah,
and he's just one of those.
Wow, that's a great expression.
Comedy alchemists is just like, oh, this is funny now. Oh, right, okay.
I feel that's so funny. I just was shooting something, and I was looking at lines, and I was like, I don't always do this, but I was like, how would Robin Williams say this?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would be really funny.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it that way, but I was like, what is my way of making that funny? Can you make like, here, hold this a second funny?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Robin could.
Yeah.
And Bill Murray could.
Oh, just to divert for a second. So Robin was, growing up, Robin was my hero.
Yeah.
When I remember back when VHS tapes were like $250 to buy, you couldn't buy them. So when I was 9 years old, saved up all my money and bought Robin Williams at the Metropolitan Opera House.
I was just thinking about Live at the Met.
Yeah.
I found that special to be confusing because is he on cocaine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was watching, I had no frame of reference. So I was kind of like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Literally, I keep using this analogy, but when you buy a new TV and you can see the frames?
Yeah.
It's the resolution's too high.
Yeah.
And I think I have to return this TV. Then the next day you watch it and your brain has caught up and you can do it.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about Live at the Met. The first time I watched it, I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I felt that way about Richard Pryor too.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are they laughing?
Yeah.
This sounds like a sad story.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
You have to be older to get some of that stuff, including Robin, which was confusing because he was the genie from Aladdin.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. I just adored the spectacle when I was younger. Is the spectacle of it. I was just like, here is somebody, the way that my mother's an acting teacher and my father's an actor, and like sort of the way that the sort of ethos that I was always raised with was in life or in parts or whatever is play and play with all of your strength that space is a sacred space.
Play with all your strength.
Yeah. It's not play to win. It's not just play. It's play with everything that you got. And so I saw that as that when I was younger. I was like, here's a guy who's,
going for broke.
Yeah.
I like that about Farley too. When I read the book, I think it's in Truth and Comedy, they talked about how Farley would attack the stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's what I like about comedy is we talk about killing.
Yeah, sure.
In the improv world, I think they use killing. They do. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I know the improv world, but it's not the same.
No.
We killed
Yeah.
different from I killed.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But
that's
an ego trip maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that was Farley. He was like, well, I'm going to go and kill.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a big gorilla.
Yeah.
And fuck it up.
Yeah.
And Robin was doing it too. There's something also respectful about when you see someone who's disinterested and like, oh, is that?
Sorry about that.
Take it. Do it. When you see someone,
I have notes.
oh, you do?
Can I bring them out?
You can.
Be a fucking dork.
I love it.
Okay.
But when you see someone who's disinterested and disengaged in their life, think of somebody in a movie, not even the DMV, but the DMV in a movie, which is the only place worse than the DMV is how they make it the DMV look in a movie. And they're just kind of like, and they hate it. There's something like disrespectful to life about it. Mm-hmm. I think it happened to that person. Mm-hmm. They were beaten down by the bureaucracy of the DMV. So I have compassion for that. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? When you see someone like Robin doing it like they might explode after the show.
Yeah.
Something that I've always wanted to do on this podcast that I know you would enjoy.
Yeah, please.
Is I go, let's talk like we're going to die someday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you watched Farley, and I know both of these people are dead. I'm not trying to be cute. But when you watch Farley and you watch Robin, you saw people that were like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're here in a weird dream right now. And I'm not going to save it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I don't like about Valentine's Day and stuff. Val and I always try to say, what if this was a first date? It's something we got from Emily and Kumail.
Yeah.
If this was a first date, would we go on a second?
Yeah.
That's not to be sweaty and panicked, but it's to go like, nothing's promised.
Yeah.
So there's something divine about going for broke.
Absolutely.
There's something deeply important about being energized and fucking like,
Well, that's the old Tibetan saying, right? Which is like meditate like your hair's on fire.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Is look, you came here to do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Is everything's happening all at once. So what the fuck are we waiting for? There's nowhere to go.
That's right.
Just do it.
That's right.
I
was just reading that this morning. There were self-realization isn't even I think he said activity. It's not even something that happens.
Yeah.
It's just something you recognize, which is different from something happening.
Yep.
And we're all waiting for something to happen.
Yep.
That's
we're waiting to do. We're waiting to
and know that we've done it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, then you just kind of stepped out of it again. But that's another way to, whatever. Keep going.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about
Robin Williams. Real quick, just to finish it up. Was loved him. And then it's still one of those sort of like crown jewels of my, personal and professional, like whatever career. But was the second movie that I ever did. I got a tiny little role in Patch Adams.
No shit.
Yeah, and it was they cut 90% of the stuff, but it was me, an actor named Alan Tudyk, who's phenomenal. He's on that show, Resident Alien. He was in Death and a Funeral. Really, 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 very, beautiful farceur. Why am I forgetting his name? He played the little guy, redhead guy in Fisher King too. Derek, I'm forgetting his last name. But it was us three and Robin for 3 weeks.
No.
In a room, just fucking riffing.
No.
And it was a dream come true. And on the first day, I walked up to him and I said, hi, Mr. Williams. I'm Ryan. I'm playing this character. Da, 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 da. And then I told him the story about how when I was younger, I wasn't out playing with my friends. I was sitting there memorizing, Robin Williams at the Metropolitan Opera House. And he grabs my hand and pulls it to his chest. And he leans into me and he just goes, "That'll get me through today. That'll get me through today."
Oh, my God.
And I was like,
I am dead.
Yeah.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
I've been really upping my gratitude practice lately, which is a huge game changer. Neil Brennan told me, he's like, Muslims pray 5 times a day. He's like, I'm going to do gratitude 5 times a day because that's my practice.
Yeah.
And he's like, because he was like, that's the right number of times to pray, but my prayer will be gratitude. And I thought that was beautiful. And one of the things that's been happening is when a fan approaches me and tells me something, like even right now, I know you're not just a fan. Well, not just a fan, but I mean like someone on the street comes up to me and says anything.
Yeah.
I'm now not as an ego trip, as a beautiful, wet, heart, spacious, all of us together thing. I'm hitting save on it so hard and connecting with them so hard. And I'm trying to be a little bit, and I am, being more thoughtful to say like, and what I say, it's similar to what Robin says, is I go, that just made my damn week. Thank you for brightening my day. Yeah. Like really, and it's kind of weird to think, I was saying stuff like that, but now I'm really trying to mean it and embody it and have a moment. And then when I'm doing my gratitude later, I think about them. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds maybe like I'm thinking about my precious possessions, but it's not. I'm thinking about I just saw this woman at the Improv and she was like, "You're why I'm here tonight. Thank you for all the joy." And dude, I'm just in a place where I'm kind of coming back to myself. And I hadn't lost myself in a big way, but I had lost myself enough that those things were kind of like, thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.
And it doesn't even happen to me that much. I'm not fucking whatever, but it was happening enough that I was just kind of normalizing it. And we're doing that with everything. Yeah. We're normalizing that we get in the car and it starts. We're normalizing that there's food in the pantry. Right. We're normalizing that I have a podcast that you wanted to do. Yeah. It's fucking nuts. And the key is to take nothing for granted. And like I said, hit save on everything. The visual for me is like beautiful angelic dust falls on everything, like we're capturing it, like for a mocap. You know what I mean? So I can have it in my heart. Yeah. Instead of just like, I was never rude or dismissive, but like I'm really, so I love that story. That was a long way to say I love that story.
But what's fun about it, I mean, what I hear you saying is for the personality structure is not meant to continually appreciate that outside of thank you so. I'm really happy, but on an interpersonal, energetic level, what's happening? I remember hearing Jim Carrey talk about this once. Is how he would talk about, regardless of whether somebody was a fan, is when somebody was walking up to him, they were presenting him with the best version of themselves, right? So it's like, if this whole thing is just some weird project, it's like, is we're not able to actually perceive reality, right? Where it's just this sort of subjective idealism that we're projecting onto something. So but they're projecting a very heightened, happy, perfect part of themselves onto you. Yeah. And that exchange can be
precious.
Is precious.
Yeah.
To be able to recognize that as not Pete, but as whatever it is in them that is
that's right.
light and glowing, and to recognize that part that's the juice. That's what
I completely agree. Yeah. 2 things. One, when people, Rupert Spira is one of my great teachers, and when people compliment him, sometimes people get emotional in the Q&As and they just say, "You're so," and he goes, "I'm just a part of you telling you what you already know." Yeah. And it seems sort of like, I guess somebody watching could be sort of like, he's just being modest. Right. And I'm like, no, I've been in that place. I know what he's talking about. Yeah. And he means it very literally. Yeah. And when you can merge with a fan, sometimes not everybody's safe to merge with. I'm not out here connecting my energy to everybody. Because some people are a little vampiric in their nature. And maybe you want to protect yourself from that. Usually very drunk people. But, you can have that. The other thing that brought up for me was energy. So again, not to toot my own, but I did a show. It was a different show at the Improv. I've been going to the Improv a lot. And on the way out, I met a young comic named Maddie, and we had this nice chat. And he was telling me that crashing meant a lot to him, which was so important to me for comics to see themselves in that show and feel supported. And, I was trying to get home. I'm driving home to Ojai. It's an hour and 15. Yeah. So the difference between me chatting for too long is whether or not maybe I'll see Val.
Yeah.
So there is some urgency.
Yeah.
But when you have the energy, and energy, I'm fascinated with energy right now.
Yep.
Because
Speaking
what
of which, I'm gonna
energy?
have you-
Yeah, dude.
I know, it's a no joke.
I'll have him send you some. I was able to have the energy. I had just been energized by doing a set, so that I had a lot of energy. But also, I've just been doing a lot of energy work. Gratitude is energy work. Gratitude is like increasing a positive vibration in yourself. Then you have more energy. It's a type of coffee. So I had that prep. And because I had the energy, I was able to say, like, while I'm talking to him, I'm remembering when I was at the Boston Comedy Club and talked to Dimitri Martin,
Yeah.
and how he talked to me for 5 minutes and it
Yeah.
changed my life.
Yeah.
Or Chappelle, how Chappelle said, I said to Chappelle, I moved to New York because of you. That's all I said.
Yeah.
And he said, you did the right thing, man. That's all he said.
Yeah.
And I was like, literally, God bless you. Because what am I saying? I moved to New York because of you. What's the subtext? Did I do the right thing? He goes, you did the right thing, man. He just
Right.
cut right to
Yep.
it. Changed my life.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying this was that for that guy. I don't know what it was for that guy. But it put me in my feet. I was
Yeah.
standing where my feet
Yeah.
were. And I was having the same dream as this guy. Instead of I'm having the dream of wanting to leave,
Yeah.
I'm having his dream that he'd like to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And then I was the character in his dream.
Yeah.
I was like, wouldn't it be nice if I was this?
Yes.
And he was like, I know you have to go. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is all we're doing, man.
Yeah. Oh, I
Like
love
I said to you,
that.
we're walking in. I go, oh, I said it on the pod. I go, it's Friday. It's all we're doing. Let's have the same dream.
Yeah.
Let's have the same
Yeah.
dream.
That's beautiful.
Not two different dreams.
Yeah.
I've been in a lot of dinners, family dinners. Everyone's having their own dream.
Sure.
There was a line in my book where I go, 5 people or 4 people at a table, nobody getting what they want. Because we were all having different dreams, different goals, different whatever it was. Mom wanted this, Dad wants this.
This is a random, like, another one of my closest friends who actually reminds me very, very much of Jackson, an actor, Mark Boone Jr., who's one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Boone June?
Yeah. Hey, Boone June. Oh, why have I never thought of that? Oh, my God. And
I run a nickname service on the
that's
side.
good. That's good.
Just give me the name. I'm like Miss Cleo. Call me now. What's their name?
But he's just. I remember he played Bobby on Sons of Anarchy that we were on together.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, the second day I showed up to set and he was wearing a sarong, and I was like,
What is a sarong?
it's like a floral, robe, like dress.
Okay.
And he's 5'4" and
Wide.
300 pounds, and I was like, I love this guy. And the first thing that he ever said to me, he's walked up to me and he's like, you think you can walk around just with nipples like that? And then just walked away, and I was like, oh, I'm in love. This guy's
These
fantastic.
are people that are
they're
nudging
beautiful.
us away.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We were at some dinner, everybody was talking, and, it's one of those things where, you're talking with somebody and this conversation ends, and then we kind of, there's 5 conversations, and I just kind of, like, look across at him, and he looks at me. I just kind of stare at him. He's staring at me. And then he just goes, I found a human skull in Central Park in 1976. I was like,
These are my people.
beautiful.
Just get to it.
Yes.
And he just wants to tickle you a little bit.
Yeah.
My friend Rob Bell has the story of Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama.
Yep.
He's on a panel. And then there's Desmond Tutu and there's the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And they walk towards each other. And he's in between them. And he's like, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
These two holy men or whatever, whatever you want to say. And he goes, they just start tickling each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah. That's
too much.
That's the stuff.
it's too much. And that's a
the
little
stuff.
tickle.
Yeah.
It's so good. Are you here? It's a sonar ping.
Yep.
I'm here. You're here. What's going on?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in that nipple comment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in the room with Robin,
In the room with Robin, that was it. It was beautiful.
and he's like, "That'll get me through the week."
And I took that and then when he
Oh, yeah, I believe he said the day actually.
yeah, I'll that'll get me through today. That'll get me through today. And he held it to his heart real hard. And I'm just, I was 19 probably at the time, and I remember just going like, I was supremely lucky with meeting. They say never meet your heroes.
Get out of here.
It's been I've been beautifully lucky with that with him, and and a lot of like
Go ahead. Safe
when
space.
it's a lame drop, but was when I met Spielberg, it was one of those like fucking.
You did Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But that's incredible. That's big Spielberg.
Yeah, but it was ridiculous for me. It was I went in, auditioned, leave it. It's like one of those dream scenarios. You're leaving and they go, yeah, you got it, and I was like, okay, great. And they're like, can you get on a plane tomorrow to go to England? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I go and I get off the plane. I'm like totally jet lagged. They take me straight to the set. They put me in wardrobe and they take me to the set. And I'm like, I'm half awake and I get to this field and there's 1,200 background players and extras. And I see this guy running towards me and it's Spielberg running towards me. And I was like, what's happening right now? And he goes, you're my guy. And I go, I'm your guy. And he goes, well, we're bringing for lunch. You want to go have lunch? And I was like, yeah. So it was me and him, and we sat down at lunch. We're sitting there talking just like a bunch of cinephiles, just total movie nerds, just geeking out the entire time.
No.
And this is like making a hole in one and having nobody around. I was like, nobody's gonna fucking believe that. And so we're sitting there and we're talking, and he goes, you really remind me of Orson Welles. And I was like, dude, fuck you. I was like, what? So I went and I did my scene that afternoon. And then afterwards he goes, so you're done. Cause I just had one scene. And he goes, how long do they have you here? And I said, I'm supposed to be here for another 10 days. And he goes, well, come hang out. So it was like 10 days of Spielberg, script supervisor, me just sitting there, and I was just absorbing, watching this guy be a master.
And directing old T. Hanks?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was, to just like anything else, just like, it is, had his homework done to the T, is everything was storyboarded, everything, but it was just, if the dance was to a different tune, that's where we were going.
They changed. Adapt.
His adaptability was to watch somebody make it look so easy and to make it so organic was really, really, really fun to watch.
Pattern recognize, like he's like, this isn't working. This isn't in the flow. This isn't right. So let's change.
Yeah.
But also, boy, I've just been on a tear about this, like structuring and planning. I just haven't been much of a structurer or a planner. And I'm 44 now, and I'm like, I just started kind of doing it. Like I just said to Katie, I was like, I'll record the intros on Sunday. It'll give you guys more time. That was their suggestion, but I was like, that's great. That'll be the day I record the intros. Yeah. Why aren't I doing that? Yeah. I get so stressed on Tuesday. Yeah. It's 5 o'clock. I just fucked over Katie and Joe. Yeah. And I'm like, let's just make a day for that. Yeah. And as much as we can, we do the podcast on Monday. Anyway, how does this relate to what you just told me? Spielberg, knowing what he's doing, gives you the calm to be able to adapt. Yeah. Instead of being overwhelmed and then you're adhering to something rigidly and poorly.
That rigidly and poorly never works. But it's a double-edged sword, right? But it's also, it's like behavior, it's yogic science, or and it's also behavioral science, which is it's one of the things that we do in dog training, but it's the same thing with yoga. In yoga, what do they say? They say that prana, or energy, is king of the mind, and they say the king of prana is rhythm. So what is rhythm? Is rhythm is that you can predict this is going to happen. It's the same thing with behavioral.
Wow, shut the fuck.
Yeah, it's the same.
You just said exactly what I said, but eloquently and with wisdom. I mean, I love that. Because that's it.
Yeah, that's all that it is.
I'm going after life energy, and then if I can make my day as much like this, I can produce more of it. That's why I'm sleeping less and having more energy. It doesn't make any sense, dude.
Right. When you know it's one of the things that we do with dog training is when the dog knows that something positive is going to happen. It's the same thing with people, is when you know that a positive thing is coming, and it's coming at a steady pace, all of the stress hormones go away. The cortisol drops, is dopamine and oxytocin go up. All this kind of stuff happens. And we're no different. What is this? This is just a rhythm. A rhythm and when it's when we're excited, it goes like this. But is when we're calm, is we feel, to Matthew McConaughey, it's this.
I was actually thinking about that because I auditioned for Wolf of Wall Street, and I knew it was one of those, like, they're going to tell us to get on a plane.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I forget what I had, but I had something booked. And they were like, are you available this day? And I was like, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I just walked out of a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm okay with that. I like watching that movie and enjoying that movie.
Yeah.
But when you thought of Patch Adams, You Got It, next day,
Yeah.
they were like, that's how Marty is, I guess.
Yeah.
You got to be available. And I was like, yeah, but I got this thing. It must have been a big thing. But anyway, that came to mind. So here it is again. This episode is brought to us by our friends at Vita Coco. You might see me and Ryan drinking Vita Coco here on the set. I love Vita Coco. Vita Coco is my favorite coconut water. It's the one that comes in the cardboard bottle. It's the one that comes in fun flavors. We got pineapple. We got original. We're talking about flavor. We're talking about a boost. It gives me a great boost in energy. It ups my mood. It's natural. It's not filled with chemicals or artificial sweeteners. It's from the earth. It tastes great, and it's packed with nutrients. It's real. It's natural. It's from the earth, but it still tastes like a treat, and it is hydrating as heck. Get some balance into your life with the #1 coconut brand in the United States with a beverage that is actually fun. It comes in, like I said, pineapple, peach, and mango. They are incredible, and the nutrients supercharge you and make you feel so good. Helps amazingly with recovery after a workout, for a hangover. It replenishes you and keeps you performing at your best, shining strong for the rest of your day. It's also a wonderful mixer if you want to make it into a drink. Throw in some tequila or agave and squeeze in some lime, and you have an amazing cocktail that has electrolytes and nutrients in there to make you feel better the morning after. So you're sort of healing that feeling you might get the next day while you're having your fun. It's an amazing strategy. Or if you're like me, use it to make incredible mocktails as well. Vita Coco contains half the calories and half the sugar of the average juice mixer for a lighter, less sugary, more refreshing cocktail. And because of the electrolytes, coconut water can help bring you back to life as well. It is my favorite way to get that goodness in your body, feel like you're getting a treat, and quench that thirst. 25% off, and get Vita Coco shipped to your door by using code WEIRD20 at vitococo.com. Prefer to shop in store? Find Vita Coco at most big name grocers in your city, as well as superstores like Walmart, drugstores like CVS, and at your local convenience stores and bodegas. vitacoco.com and use promo code WEIRD20. Get that goodness in you, get 20% off, and support your body. We're also brought to us by our friends at Ritual Multivitamin. You guys know I've been taking Ritual for years, and guys, specifically, I'm not a sports fan, but if supporting foundational health was a sport, you would want Ritual on your team. It's sweet on the bench. They made Essential for Men, which is a multivitamin that I personally take and always makes me feel ready to start my day, filling the gaps in my diet, and it is based on science and designed to help fill common nutrient gaps in your diet with 10 key nutrients. According to the CDC, fewer men than women meet the minimum daily intake recommendations for fruits and vegetables, and men are more likely to overvalue exercise and undervalue nutrition. Well, cut it out. Enter Ritual, a multivitamin scientifically developed to help men fill those nutrient gaps. And what is it? It is a time release traceable multivitamin. What does that mean? You can take it when you're fasting because it's a time release. It doesn't break down until it's in your lower intestine, which means it's not going to make you nauseous. And so it's wonderful for fasting. And it's actually going to get into your body. If you're like me, you grew up in the 90s where people scoffed at multivitamins. You just pee it out. Your pee looks like predator blood. That doesn't happen with Ritual. It's actually getting into your system for a result you can feel, that you will notice. I also supplement it. I stack it with their Synbiotic Plus Gut Health, which is a huge prebiotic, postbiotic, and what's the other one? Pre, post, and... Well, it's all the biotics. It's all the biotics for your gut health, and you got to take care of your gut health to keep digestion going smooth. It's like a second brain. I'm all about that gut health, and Ritual has helped me up that as well. It is science-backed for men 18 plus with high-quality, traceable key ingredients in clean, bioavailable forms, 10 key nutrients in 2 delayed release capsules per day, designed to dissolve later in the small intestine, gentle on an empty stomach with a minty essence that actually makes taking your multivitamin fun, and enjoyable. So get it in your life. Like me, I travel with it. I never miss my ritual every single day. Essential for Men is a quality multivitamin from a company you can actually trust. Get 25% off. That's up. It went up. 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/weird. Start Ritual or add Essential for Men to your subscription today by going to ritual.com/weird for 25% off. Support your body, support your gut, support this show. All right, everybody, back to Ryan. So talking about that, stress hormone, when you know a good thing is happening, you're one of these.
Okay.
Well, you're fit.
I'm a professional chameleon.
Tell me.
Look, dude, these meat suits are fucking rentals, and I've done anything and everything in between. Is hearing your stories about you in junior high school and high school. I was 340 pounds in high school.
Oh, wow.
And have at this height been that heavy, and then been down to in my 20s and early 30s like 175.
Wow.
So, and everything in between is whether it was starving myself and being on a bike or bodybuilding or the whole business. So I've done. I
go all over.
Yeah.
But when I searched your name to do some research, like a lot of fitness things came up. People have gone to you to be like, "Hey, will you tell us how to do this mindfully or whatever it may be?" But what struck me about this, and sorry, everybody knows I'm going through this period where when I got really clear about why I want to work out and what I'm after. Suddenly I'm working out, as opposed to I should work out, which is like the least compelling story in the world.
That never works.
That ties to dog training, doesn't it?
You're right on it. Right on it.
It's like, tell me, like,
it's just like, is one of the things that they, the old school is this aversive, like you have to teach the dog through aversive means, which is like, teaching your kid is like holding a gun to your kid and saying, make your bed. It's like you're not teaching them to make their bed. You're teaching them to be afraid of you.
Yeah.
And interpersonally, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
And also, but what's been interesting to me is it's such an easy tell when you relate to when there's that should. Is that's not anything higher speaking through you. You just go, oh, that's ego talking. Yeah. That's this identification process. Is whenever there's fear involved, you can know that it's not coming from some source.
Yeah.
The source never puts anything in with is the expansive feeling that you feel in meditation or when you're with your guru is what do you call it, a honey avalanche. Is when you say fear to that, it's like it's just of such a lower dimension. It's of a different quality.
It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
That reminds me, it was a ketamine experience, but I do think it was divine. I don't know how people feel. I feel very strongly about that. Yeah. But I was asking it if it loved me. And I was really talking to myself. Yeah. But I was like, does awareness love me? And it was the silliest question. And I talked to my friend Michael Gungor about it. And this is kind of high level, meaning it's a long walk up the mountain to get to this conclusion comfortably, but let's just get to it uncomfortably. We were like asking God or source if it loves you is a little bit like my daughter asking me if I love her imaginary friend, whose name is Pokey Shallowhole. And if she said, do you love Pokey? I would say, of course. And I do, in a sense, because I just love everything about you. Like the way I put it is, it's like water gets things wet, and this being is being is wrong, but this
I got it. I'm with you.
Awareness is or it is expansive. It is light, and we introduced through the survival mind and through the superego and conditioning fear. So when you're saying lower frequency, you're putting something in the field of expansive love. And then in that field is this I should, or I'm a piece of shit, or I'm unworthy, or I have limiting beliefs that I'm too much, or like I'm not a fit person. I'm just not that kind of guy. Like and like, but that's being added over the backdrop of expansive, infinite love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like a conflicting vibration. The other one isn't a vibration.
That's right.
The other one is the ground in which you're having the other vibration.
That's right.
That's what's being added.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
So I was just a little curious and selfishly looking for even more motivation. That I'm like, again, it's a Tony Robbins thing. He goes, a push is I should work out. A pull is if I exercise, I will be an inspiration to my daughter. Like I'll be strong.
Yeah.
Like let's just get petty.
Yeah.
I want her to think my big strong dad.
Yeah, sure.
I want my wife to go,
yeah.
look at my fucking husband.
Yeah.
I know it's shallow or whatever. I just want her to be like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pick up my baby and her friends.
Yeah.
I want to be that guy at the playground.
Yeah.
And I know that's my happiest place because when I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for, I'm thinking about the times that I got a kid under each arm and I'm running them to the slide.
Yeah.
That's joy for me. So what does that take? I'm getting older, working out, all of these things. As an actor, what opens up? If I Chris Pratt myself, what opens up? So now I'm being pulled to it. So that's the difference. Push is I should, my fucking doctor said I should, it's good for my cholesterol, whatever.
Yeah.
That's push.
Yeah.
Pull is, and he goes, label it a title, make it your identity. And I called it leading man. Not just an actor leading man, but like a leader of my family and a leader of my own body. And then you do this, it's very Joe Dispenza, like every morning I'm picturing 3 goals and I'm imagining that they've already happened. And one of them is this body that I'd like to create for myself.
Yeah.
But you imagine that it's already happened.
Yeah.
And then when the free, I only work out for like 20 minutes. So it's like the free 20, 30 minutes shows up. I go,
No, you're like me. We cry on the Peloton. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Then the choice is less, it's less of a choice. I just have this, I'm like a dog.
Yeah.
And I trained myself to go, you like running with kids under your arms at the playground?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get for doing this.
Yeah.
And when I'm in that place after a workout, where it's a little mushroomy, it's like everything feels expanded and clear. And that's probably hormonal.
Yep.
Testosterone, my eyes are wide and
Yep.
I'm in this like almost like a peak state.
Yeah.
When I'm in that state, I go, this is working out. I tell the dog. I go, this is what I was trying to get you to do.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
That's great. That's wonderful. Putting yourself in the position of should is always going to induce fear, right? It's always going to come from a dualistic point of view, right?
Yeah.
Is the antithesis of that dualistic point of view is curious. Is to be curious is to be pulled. And you know it's the same with dog training and just people training and person training and is when you're curious, whether, and you can use that when you're playing a scene. If you go into a scene and go like, I got to do it like this, I got to cry here, I got to do this, or I have this this preconceived idea of how I'm supposed to react in this. But if you go into it continually curious of,
Curious is contemplative.
Yeah.
Instead of running all your old patterns, you're actually being vulnerable enough to letting the present moment actually impact you, change you, which is vulnerable.
That's right.
And we actually hate vulnerability, but everything good comes from vulnerability.
It's a wonderfully Zen yin yang kind of is. You have to use the dual to reach the non-dual, right?
Yeah.
Is like what they always say, which is whether it's mantra, mudra, prayer beads, whatever is the practice isn't the prayer, is the experience and the feeling.
Yeah.
That whatever it is that gets you there.
Yeah.
That's the prayer.
Yeah.
So and I always try to find, like, when I'm in that space is to really, I mean, because in the Tibetan traditions is, all of this stuff, whether it's the Kala chakra, whether it's Manjushri, all the sort of Tibetan symbology, this is all stuff that's just inside of us. This is just, it's Gospel of Thomas stuff. Is all of this stuff is just internal architecture. And so when I'm in that space of like, right, this feels expansive, I feel curious, I feel creative, is to really kind of nail down the the vibration and kind of like see it, smell it. You know, it's just like that old manifesting stuff is use all of your senses to really kind of,
Yes.
you know, is not just breadcrumbs to it, but is like, let that be is build that palace so that you know what it, where it is.
And where you're pointing.
Yeah.
So I love all that. In fact, that's what it's called Tony Robbins priming. If anyone wants to do it, but you can watch it on YouTube. It's free. But like he says, what were you feeling? What were you seeing? What were you smelling?
Yeah.
And when you're feeling like you already have that body, or you already have that, you already sold that show.
Yeah.
I picture myself at wrap of this thing, and we're all clapping, and the crew is and I'm like, I'm there.
Yeah.
And the one that I like, he goes, breathe the way you would breathe in that moment.
That's good.
And celebrate it.
Yeah.
Don't just kind of like, cool, like, and make that energy bigger.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, geez, this is so fucking cool. Let me put this to you, because what's been happening with me as a, you know, you want to take me all the way down in the elevator, I'm a non-dual person. Seems so stupid to say. I am a non-dual person. Is so stupid.
Can I tell you that when you and Neil deGrasse Tyson were talking about Vedanta, and he was like, the what?
Yeah.
And then what he says after that is pure Vedanta claim.
Yeah, I know.
It's so beautiful. Sorry,
I've
go ahead.
always wanted him and Rupert Spira to talk because I'm just like that. We're so close
Yeah.
to being brothers.
Yeah. It's there. We're getting there. Is all
It doesn't even matter, but yes, we're close. We're even close enough right now. It's fine.
Yeah.
But what was happening, and everyone that listens to this show regularly, is I was just getting very dry. I was getting very, this is God's dream. It's already over. Everything happened at once.
Yeah.
My friend David Nichtern, the Buddhist, goes, some teachers, all they teach, they go like this.
Yeah.
That's what they say?
Yeah.
They're like, what is this? And they go,
Yeah.
and I'm like, God. So I really took that in. And I was like, I noticed that I was just maintaining my life. A lot of the juice had run out, very dry. Because I was just like, we're in heaven already. We never left home. It's all done.
Yep.
So I got kind of a little detached. And then I started getting more juiced about my life through some of the things we were just talking about. And then I'm supplementing my Rupert with Richard Rohr. And Richard Rohr is, again, who I've always loved, but I'm bringing him back into my daily practice. And he's like what you just said. He goes, the finite is the gateway to the infinite. Like, meaning, as I'm telling you about this show I want to sell in this body I want to have, and this conversation that I'm enjoying, holding both ultimate reality and relative reality. That's a big interest for me.
Yeah.
Is I'm like, does this matter? But it's yes and no. I was in a real phase where I was like, no. And that was really drying me up. And you know what was happening? And I'm going to put it all to you. I just wasn't much use to people. Yeah. I just wasn't very useful.
Yeah.
Meaning I was having my own little trip.
But that's all part of it, dude.
And it was
like,
okay, but I'm coming out of that phase. I'd love for you to talk about it.
Well, I mean, Ram Dass talks about that too. Is you know that is everybody goes through that renunciate phase, and then I remember hearing him talking. He was like that was a point when I wasn't touching money, and it's I was like, okay,
you literally wouldn't physically touch money.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
like
one of those things.
you go through that. That's all.
But isn't it funny that when it was happening, I didn't go, oh, I'm doing that. I was just like, this is ultimate reality. And it was very selfish. I'm being real. Like, I was having my own, and Richard Rohr defines sin as a state. And one of the ways, not a little naughty thing you do.
Yeah.
And one of the ways he defines it, you could call it disconnect. But he goes, it's, I don't know if he says perverse or extreme, but I'm going to say perverse autonomy. Where you're just, it's just you by yourself. Meanwhile, Rupert is talking about serving and loving and forgiving and incorporating everyone. And of course, in Miracles is talking about all these things. It was in there, but I was just sort of like, no bother.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Of course.
And my life was drying up.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to share that when you say the way to the infinite is through the finite.
Yeah.
And Val is always there for me to she's laughing at me. Going like, I've been telling you it's your body. And I've been telling you it's your relationships.
Yeah.
And the great secret of like having a Sunday dinner with kids running around and cooking for people, feed people, love people, serve people, informs the cleanliness of my antenna to ultimate reality. Now I can receive it a little bit more cleanly because I'm taking care of myself psychologically or physically or mentally or socially. Even though ultimately you can say that doesn't matter. It's a paradox. It does matter, and it doesn't matter, and it does matter.
Yep.
I want to end with it does matter.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the practices that I have is like, look, this human, experiment, mission is that everybody comes here with one, regardless of whatever sort of, karmic, dharmic, responsibility that we have, is that the name of the game is twofold, which is one, that you have to find a way to be happy. And that's a totally subjective experience. And, and dependent upon, whatever sort of karmic, whatever psychic DNA that you bring into this equation from the get-go. And then on top of that is, which is easier said than done, obviously. And
Ramdas says that's like your software.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your hardware is your body. Your software is all this. You could call it karma.
Yep.
Call it your DNA, your conditioning, all this stuff. So that's the program you're working with.
Yep. But the other side of the coin is of a different dimension, which is that you to be of service, and is in that, and it's not entirely, altruistic, obviously, because in that state of bliss, when you're of service, how does it feel? It feels fucking fantastic. You're high as a kite. Yeah. That's the whole model of the Tibetan Buddhist, the Bodhisattva, which is like, I'm going to come back and help everybody until everybody's out of here. Yeah. But why? Because it feels good. Yeah. To do that is yes. What do they say, like that? The biggest disappointment of the ego is enlightenment. Is to really know that there's no there. Yeah. Is to become nothing but service is right. The height of the height.
And then you are mirroring the attributes of, you could say, your creator, or you could say awareness.
Absolutely.
But I was kind of forgetting that like when you get in touch with the characteristics of your true nature, then those bring that nature into this world.
That's right.
And that, I don't even want to say it's not important. It is important.
It is important.
It's feeling really important.
Well, look, there's no wrong way to eat Reese's. You know what I mean? It's like you use what you got. And
we're here.
Yes.
I always go back to that. And Richard's very like that. This is happening.
Yeah.
And I have caught myself, I was getting away from thoughts like this, where I was like, I'm not just going to push this away, because if this is happening, this is what is happening. And what I'm saying is, like, I anthropomorphize the idea of God as like, then God wants to do this. Mm-hmm. God would like to dance this dance, or put on this show, or play this game, or whatever it is. I had lost touch of some of those, like, to do it. Mm-hmm. To know itself, to change and grow and adapt and fall in love and have your heart broken and all that stuff. Yep. And I'm.
But that's also. But it's inherent in the human experience also, which is like, I don't know, if you look at this from a spiritual like trajectory, which is like, all right, so we're all part of this we're all part of the creator, we're all part of this, this boundless, formless, infinite thing, and then we take form into something that we become a part of. We are a part of our mother, and a baby is born, baby comes out. What happens, is psychologically, they've talked about that for the first, I don't know how many months, but that psychologically the child still feels that they are a part of the mother, and then the individuation process happens. But from a spiritual point of view, it's just a circle getting bigger. You know what I mean? We do the same thing, is we get married because we want a larger experience of ourselves. We have children, or a profession, or a
project,
a
friend,
or a church, or a community, or is just like, is find that thing that resonates, that feels close to home to you. But is the human experience is we didn't come here just to
Yeah.
Which has its...
We came to grow.
Yeah, we came to experience larger and larger and larger versions of ourselves, and to use all the sort of dualistic parts of that to experience the limitlessness of us.
Yes.
Right. I mean that's the fun stuff.
That's what Rupert says is sometimes like narcissism, ego trips is an unconscious desire to bring the qualities of your true self into the world. You're like, I want to be big and loud and special because you know somewhere deep down. Again, I've said this a million, but it's great. Is that Richard Rohr says like stories like Harry Potter and basically every fairy tale are all the same. Is like I thought I was an orphan living under the stairs, but my parents are, to use his language, divine. Yeah. I come from something royal. Yeah. I have royal blood. Yeah. And waking up to that, and then that changes everything. Yeah. And why do those stories resonate so deeply? And then, but it even explains some bad behavior. As you're like, well, then I am going to own everything because it's all mine anyway. Sure. But it can also come out in a smaller.
But those are always. There's no longevity in those. Is whether it's the worst that humanity can sort of, whether that's Hitler or not, is when those things they're unsustainable. Yeah. That which shows you how the expansive quality of things will always win out.
Well, isn't that funny that every spiritual quest, journey, could be psychedelic, could be otherwise. Kundalini's brought me to some fucking trippy ass. I'd love to ask you about that. But the little Duncan Trussell in all of us, the little Morpheus in all of us, seems to always whisper the same thing, which is like, nothing lasts. Like that's its little wicked joke. And a lot of people have bad trips in that way, but you can also have a good trip because you just go like, why am I taking this so seriously? I'm a melting ice sculpture. Or that's a little too personal. The whole thing is like sand underwater. And that's kind of scary until you start to trust the water. And then you're like, oh, I'm the water. And the sand is just kind of a game. And it's frightening, but it's also exciting. And it's just a play and you can let go.
But also if you really want to dive into it, is nothing lasts, which is the perspective of you seeing that sand in the water is nothing, is everything. Yeah. And that part does last.
Right. No, that's, I'm so with you. You have to take your medicine with the other thing, which is like, and then also what you are wasn't born and can never die. Deep down.
Absolutely. That's the
whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. That's good. I like that. Okay. So tell me a little bit about Kundalini.
So,
what does Kundalini mean?
Yeah.
I'd hate to stump you on a simple. Yeah. It's like if you asked me a stand-up question, I was like, I don't know. I don't know. That's not important question? To me. Like, I don't know. Like sometimes people say some classic stand-up thing, like the 1,000-year-old man or something. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not familiar with that. I don't know.
You don't know the 1,000-year-old man?
I actually do. I picked one I knew.
What if it was, have you ever had the other way? I remember I was standing there. So I was talking with some guy, and he knew that I asked about what I did, and I said I was an actor. And he's one of these kind of like, one of these kind of guys, and he just kind of stood there, and he was, you guys have C-stands? I was like,
shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we C-stand, right. We got craft service. Right. Yeah, it's like, okay. He's trying to make a connection. DP. I was like, this is beautiful.
You're gonna watch the dailies. I could be wrong, but in that moment, a lot of people are playing these unconscious status games, and they don't want you to win.
I know.
So he's like, oh yeah. It's like I meet a classical pianist, and I'm like, white keys, black keys, because you don't want to lose. Yeah, I know where you are. I got you. And that's what our brains are doing all the time.
Oh yeah,
we're compartmentalizing. Going, I know where you are.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to us by my new favorite clothing company, Roosevelt's, RSVLTS, Roosevelt's. It's an apparel brand that feels great, looks great, and is deeply, deeply fun. If you're looking for a gift for yourself or for a friend that loves pop culture, great clothes, or maybe even Americana, look no further than Roosevelt's. They combine high-quality products with fun, bold designs. I wear them constantly. Red carpets, late-night shows, date nights. Look great, but also just a little twist of fun for your friends out there that love shows like The Big Lebowski, The Office, Star Wars, Disney, Nickelodeon, classic movies like The Big Lebowski. I just said The Big Lebowski was a show. You knew I meant it was a movie. If you have somebody in your life that likes that sort of stuff, or you want to just personally, like me, go out to something wearing just a little bit of a conversation starter, something that gets you in the mix, something that lets people know what you're about, and feels fantastic on your skin, that is breathable, light, soft, stretchy, and fits so damn nice. I'm talking moisture wicking. I'm talking breathable, extremely breathable, made from signature Cunaflex 4-way stretch material. These shirts feel incredible. They don't wrinkle. I throw them in my bag. I take them out. I throw them on. I go on stage. They carry everything from Star Wars and Jurassic Park, The Office, and more. I just got a bunch of Batman stuff for obvious reasons. They also have hats, bomber jackets, performance hoodies, and shorts. Everything they make is incredibly high quality. They won't blame you if you never want to take it off. Conversation starting shorts, even bringing the shyest person out of their shell. Based out of Hoboken, New Jersey. These guys are great. I'm so happy to be working with them. I started as a fan, and now here they are sponsoring the show. So give them some love, give them some support your style, support your life, support the show. Go to Roosevelt's, RSVLTS. Check them out, rsvlts.com, or follow them on Instagram at rsvlts at Roosevelt's. They are the real deal. We're also brought to us this episode by my favorite CBD brand. You guys know this, our friends at Next Evo. Next Evo. What do people say about CBD? It's great, but I don't feel it, or I don't know how to dial in the dose, or it takes too long to kick in. I love CBD. I use it to relax. I use it to recover. I use it to deal with stress. I use it to help with my sleep. And Next Evo fixed all of those complaints. What's going on? Oil-based CBD doesn't mix well with our water-based bodies. Oil and water. So you absorb as low as 6% of the CBD on the label. 6%. But Next Evo Naturals, they're these little gummies. They taste fantastic. And they developed a clinically tested water-soluble form of CBD. And their gummies and their capsules are proven to work faster and absorb 4 times better than oil-based products. So you feel it, you can dial in the dose, and it kicks in quickly. I was having a very stressful week this week. I popped in I actually took 3 of their stress gummies, and it melted my stress away. It keeps you in the world. We're not talking about an intoxicant. I'm talking about something that helps you manage and ease and interact with your life again comfortably. It is natural. It is wonderful. It is a game-changing way to manage all of those things I said. Stress, sleep, if you want to relax, if you're trying to recover. And now they have their strongest gummy ever, their new extra strength daily wellness CBD gummy, which customers and I personally love. Or try their all-time bestseller, like I said, their stress gummies, which is ashwagandha, which is an adaptogen mixed with CBD. Absolute game changer. So leave oil behind and start the year with a more effective and fast-acting CBD that you can feel and get just right for you from Next Evo Naturals. Get 25% off any order or up to 60% off as a new subscriber by using code WEIRD at nextevo.com. That's 25% off your order or up to 60% off a new subscription at nextevo.com with promo code WEIRD. All right, let's get back to Ryan. So
Kundalini.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the Cliff Note version.
Who is Kundalini?
Yeah. Is so read Here with a Thousand Faces. I'm reading Here with a Thousand Faces and listening to Power Myth. And it was the first time that I heard Joseph Campbell talking about Kundalini. And he was talking about the chakras. I still literally remember Power Myth going, this is Muladhara. It means root base. And I was like, and I just remember going like, and it just had this, I was, out of everything, I was drawn to that I kept reading over and over again and seeing all of the things that he spoke about with the chakra system and yoga, and was just totally enamored. But just to go back a little, was growing up, I was I went to Sunday school and Hebrew school. I went to, in junior high, I deeply studied Islam, and then out of high school was when I started into Mahayana Theravada and like bits of Zen, and then which gets way sort of out there in the purest parts of it. But I was always just really taken by what the fuck is all of this stuff, and Joey Cams was the one who integrated this sort of Kundalini idea, and I was just so taken by it. And then in my late teens and early 20s, started doing yoga. I started doing every form of yoga. I did Iyengar for a couple of years. I did Ashtanga for a couple of years. I did hot yoga. I was doing like religiously, like doing all of these forms of yoga, but I was only studying Kundalini. I was reading everything that I could on Kundalini yoga. It was this weird dichotomy, and so I was very well versed in and well versed and unpracticed in what Kundalini was. And then the strangest, one of the talk about these synchronistic things was, which I'll hit you with in my notes. Oh my God! So that was one of my first records, dude.
That's great.
Sorry. Was Russell Brand said to me, he came and did a like sort of a web talk thing on Sons of Anarchy, and I avoid interviews and I'm infamous for like not doing the red carpet. It's not my bag. Is like, here's a fake conversation, let's have it again. It never has been. It's just something that I am averse to. But something said you're supposed to do something said Russell has a talk show and you're supposed to do it. So I called him and I said, I'd met him and there was this strange little Bugs Bunny trickster vibe with this, library of sort of alien knowledge pouring through this guy. And I was like,
I thought you said alien knowledge porn.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that
alien
too.
knowledge porn.
Yeah, that too. And something said, you're supposed to do this thing. So I called him. I said, can I be on your show? He said, yeah. He said, we're filming the first episode next week.
This is Brand X.
Yeah. And I went, okay. So I go and I'm like, I don't even know, but I've learned over my life to listen to that little voice. So I'm just there and not really liking it and kind of like sitting in the dressing room. And then they call me, they say, you're ready. And I walk out into the hallway and it was this little tiny, I remember it was this little tiny hallway. And I turn into this hallway and there's this little old woman, all dressed in white with a white turban. And she goes, hi. She's right like this. And it was that experience that you had with Ram Dass.
Wow.
And I'm standing there and I look at this woman and she's just, what's your name? And goosebumps are running all over me. And I'm going, I'm Ryan. I'm supposed to be on the show. And she's like, oh, how old are you? And having this very, very mundane conversation. And during this conversation, I felt like I was having 8 conversations with this woman.
Wow.
And I was just taken. And she goes, okay, well, nice to meet you, and left. And I just remember like shaking it off, going like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
And it reminds me, it makes me want to cry too. It's one of the most sort of like closest parts of me. It's like when you hear the story in, autobiography of Yogi, when Paramahansa Yogananda meets his teacher. He's just walking along and something says, turn down this alley. And then he goes down there and his teacher is standing there going, I've been waiting for you. Is, for whatever reason, is the teacher-student, the guru-disciple relationship, I just have such enormous reverence for. Is whatever that is in this human condition is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I've always held that very, 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 very close.
Yeah.
I remember the side story was one of my favorite movies growing up was The Last Dragon. The Last Dragon was kind of like this black guy in Harlem who was. Do you never seen it? Oh, it's great. And it's kind of it's a kung fu movie set in Harlem, and early in the very beginning of the movie is there's this student, and he's kind of and he's sitting there with his master, and his master's shooting arrows at him, and he's blindfolded, and there's one arrow with a ribbon to it, and he's chopping all of the arrows, and then he catches the one with the ribbon on it, and his master says, like, how did you do that? And he goes, I just knew. And his master kind of like looks away and starts packing up his things, and then walks up to him. He has a little like karate badge and rips it off him, and says that he's leaving. And he goes like, well, where are you going on a mission? Like, where are you going on an adventure? Are you going to study? And he goes, no, I'm going to visit my brother-in-law in Florida. And he goes, but I am no longer your master. Wow. And I remember being a little kid and just crying because he goes, there's nothing more that I can teach you. Wow. And it reminds me a lot of the, like when Maharaji would, kept kicking Ram Dass out. Yeah. Like you'd come back and, and he'd go, you got work to do. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in any case, so, wow. So I go and I do Russell's show. We have this great show, for whatever reason, at the end of the show, I picked him up, picked him up like a baby, and then it's after the show, and I'm getting ready to go, and there's tons of people backstage, and I'm literally walking out the door, and he goes, and he calls to me he goes, Ryan. I said, yeah. He goes, what are you doing tomorrow? I go, nothing. And he goes, you want to come to Kundalini? And it literally it reminds me of like, remember that part in West Side Story when like Tony sees Maria and everything else blurs. And it was like, I just, on this resonant level, this thing was like, ding. You've been practicing all this time for this. And I was like, yes.
You had been studying it, but not doing it.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, I do. And he goes, okay, I'll text you the address. I was like, okay. And I'm driving there the next morning, and I go, that woman in white is the teacher, and she's my teacher. And I'm walking into the place, and she comes walking in right beside me. And there was 150 people in the class, and she's walking in beside me. She goes, "Oh, I remember you." And she goes, "Yeah, you're a friend. It's good to have a friend when you go to your first class, isn't it?" And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, "Okay, let's go." I went in there, and the first Kundalini experience just it was just an explosion.
Now tell people who have been out of the loop. Kundalini is energy, or I know.
So Kundalini is known as the mother yoga. It's the sort of oldest form of yoga. It gave birth. They call it the mother yoga because it gave birth to every other form. Yeah. Is through a lot of the other forms of quote unquote yoga. What we consider yoga is these sort of stretchings and postures, which can get you to a certain level of serenity, peace, enlightenment, or whatever. But it is, just like everybody thinks that their modality is the best, but they say that Kundalini is really the fastest because it uses kriyas, which is or asanas, which is physical things that you do with your body, and then meditations, mudras, and mantra. Is you use all of it. Use all of these things to reach this non-dualistic, heightened state. Yeah. And the basic idea in the pure sort of Kundalini form, and also referencing back to, which is just so fun to be able to say this, to you, and to harken back to listening to Joseph Campbell, 25 years ago, was, that we have these energy centers within our body, and Kundalini, there's lots of different interpretations of what the actual words mean, whether it's coiled snake or whatever, is symbolically that there's a snake at the bottom of your spine, which represents this primordial energy, this primordial force of creation.
And you can get it to kind of like go up your spine, through your crown, out your head kind of thing.
Yeah. And as it goes through these energy centers in the body, the energy, that primordial energy gets refined and heightened. So it's like a distilling process. So by the time it comes out the top of your head, it's a purer form of that energy. And, and that energy is just one of the forms of, just like whether it's, Vishnu, Krishna, and Shiva, or, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost, or one of the things that I like the best, because it's more of a pragmatic sort of way of describing it, is GOD, which is like generating, organizing, and destroying. They're just sort of like these three tools, and by the time it leaves here, is that it's a refined form of energy, and that you get to experience this very non-dualistic, heightened experience. That's the big idea.
If I were to explain it to somebody, I've only done it once or twice, I would have just gone, it's breath yoga. I know that's oversimplified, but there's a lot of breath stuff.
Some stuff, sure.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I do in the morning, I'm realizing how similar the priming exercise that I do.
It's exactly the same.
Have you done the priming thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's is in Kundalini, it's one of the foundations. They call it ego eradicator, which is basically just this. You don't do the pumping, but you do it with both hands, and it's that sort of bellows breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I will give you a secret, and to any secret out there, if the next time you go on an audition, go into the bathroom 3 minutes beforehand, you're getting the job.
Do it.
Really? Because what is breath? Is you're just flooding the system with energy.
Yeah.
Is when the energetic state, is, he calls it a state, but it's the state of the body is heightened in energy. Then what happens is when we don't have enough energy, we react instead of respond. When there's enough energy, you can respond instead of react.
Right.
And in that responsive state, you're the most creative. And you hear everybody talk about. Bill Murray is one of them. As he says, I think that people do the best work when they're the most relaxed. For me, relaxation is enormous. And Alan Arkin was the same way, who has written 2 great books on sort of meditation and sort of how it made its way into his life. But is priming the system with enough energy.
Yeah.
Is you're only going to make better decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. And then the second part of the priming is also very Kundalini, as you picture a swirling light going in and into the earth and then coming back and out. Yep. So into the center of the earth and out. And while you're doing that, you're he's saying these things, but compassion and patience and love and virtue and heal me and strengthen me and cleanse me and all this stuff. And you're just like, I look forward to it. Look, little brag. It's not even a humble brag. I've been getting up at 5:30 every day because I can't wait to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's been this great revelation of my 40s, is I'm like, energy isn't just sleep and food. Mm-hmm. It's having purpose. Yeah. And when you're going to get up, so I get up, it's dark. Yeah. Boy, I can't. I love telling people this because it's been so meaningful to me. Yeah. It's 5:30 in the morning. I get up. I go outside. It's still dark. The stars are out. I get in the cold plunge. Yeah. And I've been doing it so consistently that I don't even mind getting in the cold plunge. Yep. I know you know. Yep. I want to talk about that too. But I get in, and then when I'm in the cold plunge, I do box breathing. That's how I get through it. It's also how I time it, because 4 box breaths is a minute.
I got a hack for it that I came up with. That I was like, somebody else must have come up with this.
Tell me.
It's a really good one.
For cold plunging?
Yeah, along with the box breathing.
Because that's a thing.
That's totally. But and I heard you talk about this once, is you have to convince yourself that you like it. That's why
I smile.
Same thing.
I smile.
I smile right before I get in, and I smile, and I go, best thing in the whole world, best thing in the whole world.
Yes, that's right. I go, this is the opposite of death.
Yeah.
Is one of mine.
So, but it's just like...
The opposite of death. Sorry.
That's good. That's
I go,
good.
this is the opposite of death.
I think you got your next special title. is the... one of the things, well, what does everybody do? Everybody gets in, they do this, and they'll try to Wim Hof it. They'll try to, and I was just like, well, all right. So if that's what everybody does, like, and that's not working, like, what's the opposite? So I started doing this thing, and it totally works when you get in, especially if you're really below, if you're like 30, 29, 27, if you really make it cold, is get in there, and with the box breathing, with your exhales, is make sex sounds. Whatever is whatever sounds you make while you're having sex must be a vagus nerve thing that happens. Is making the sounds of you in actual pleasure.
Val and I love going. It's not exactly
it's enormous.
My sex sound. I won't do that here.
Yeah.
But it is similar. And when we're stressed, we go, and Huberman, the internet's neuroscientist, told us that sighing for like 30 seconds, just doing like that, has a profound change on your physiology. Yeah. So that's a great little hack.
I've always been so enamored by those little hacks that, like, you don't have to believe in shit. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And the effect is enormous.
Yeah.
Like that old psychological study, whatever it is you look at somebody in the eyes for 4 minutes and you fall in love with them. That kind of thing. Is like, who stumbled on that shit?
I know.
Is when I think about those things, I just always remember back to the pre-Vedantic, like the real rishis, the guys who, like, because what does rishi mean? Rishi means like they listen. These are people who, that internal orbit, they found that stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff is amazing.
No
to
wrong
me.
way to eat a rishi.
Yeah.
It sounds like I do ketamine a lot. I don't. I've only done it like 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
But one time I did it. Your body feels so good. You're incredibly present. And I just started kind of like doing Tai Chi, even though I don't know Tai Chi.
Yep.
But it didn't feel egoic, like I know Tai Chi. It made me feel like, oh no, someone discovered Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Tai Chi was in us.
Yeah.
And someone listened and brought it back from that place that we all have access to.
Yep.
And I was like, this is weird. And I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. I've always vibed with the people who live in that place.
Yeah.
But the people that I actually vibe with the most is the people who have a pure residence there, but also use their prayers to find a fucking parking spot. Is because
Both worlds.
Yeah, well, you have to, because look, one of my teachers says, look, without an ego, you wouldn't remember where your car is, and so is the idea is, that you have to be able to use these things.
Yeah.
And my specific teacher, whose name is Tej.
Is this the woman?
Yeah.
Because I have my pinky up here, and it's to remember to ask you about your teacher.
So
there's a life hack for you. Get a pinky.
She.
What's her name?
Tej.
Tej.
Yeah. Which was funny because, like, either last night or on the way, last night I was listening to Ram Dass just to get in your vibe, and he was talking about, he was giving a story of the Buddha, and he was talking about how when the Buddha reached enlightenment, how this sort of radiance comes out, and he goes, and that radiance is called Tej, and I was like, oh, very good.
No way.
Yeah. But that is what Tej means. It means that sort of celestial radiance.
Wow. How are we spelling that?
Tej. Yeah. She, so I went up to her, I went to one more class after that, and I was about to leave, and Russell just takes me by the hand and holds my hand and brings me up to her and just kind of like leaves me there. And she goes, hi. And she goes, here's this 40-day meditation. You can do it, right? I went, yep. I was like,
It just came out.
well, if anything, if to pat myself on the back, I am a good student. There's no, when I find a teacher that I trust,
Yeah.
and I don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
When I trust them as a teacher, it's all or nothing. It's empty cup, fill it. They can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And that was the decision. There was some pre-karmic thing, and she leaned right into it. And also, she is the, in the sort of Kundalini, LA, there's lots of, just like when you talked about going to Hawaii and you're like, oh, there's going to be a lot of hippy dippy fucking, Tej is very, very different because she's the Yoda. This is the one who doesn't suffer fools. And I remember we were in class and
With my stick?
Yeah, pretty much.
Little soup.
But Shakespeare is too old. Is just that kind of
Too old.
Yeah, is the. I remember I was in class early on, and I brought my wife, and in the middle of class, giant class, and we're in the middle of a meditation, and I was doing something wrong, and she just yells at me, just lays right into me, and I remember I just was like. It was like this, and my wife was like, I didn't like that she yelled, and I was like, I loved it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, and she was like, why? And I was like, have you seen the way that she treats? if you're a tourist, if you're a spiritual tourist, it's like good for you.
But she's giving you the
keep
real.
going. And she's going, you want to get rid of this stuff?
Wow.
Let's get rid of it.
Wow.
Which is the perfect. Very, very early on, one of my earliest teachers, talk about weird, like synchronistic things, was one of my biggest teachers of acting was my high school drama coach, who had a double doctorate from USC and taught at USC.
Double D's?
Yeah, double D's, big D's, and his name was Doc, and was but he's taught at USC for 25 years and then left and started teaching in high school. So he was this library of knowledge, but he was one of my first teachers, and I remember where was I going? Oh, so I went to my first class. I'm sitting there. He's big. He's loud. He's incredibly smart. This guy's a 200 IQ. Was just a force to be reckoned with. It was my first class, and I got up there and I did a monologue that I had memorized the night before. And he goes, stop. And he goes, you tell me the truth and I'll give you an A in this class. I went, okay. And he goes, how many times have you done that? And I go, I think I did it twice last night. And he goes, so you've never acted before? I went, not really. And he goes, okay. And sort of took me under his wing.
Because did he see potential?
Saw something.
Oh, he did?
He saw
I thought
something.
this was going to be a bad story.
Well,
get the fuck out of here. That's what I was waiting for.
But the way that I'm getting to how it relates to Tej is he was infamous.
That's like Chappelle, by the way. You know that Chappelle story?
No.
He blew his audition trying to do a monologue to get into the art school in D.C., but they let him in anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because they were like, they saw potential. They saw something going on. Very cool. He was infamous for when you were in a play with him. Inevitably would happen in the middle when people were trying to find when somebody had committed to something that was, and they were trying to push it and it didn't work, is he would go into these 45-minute screaming sessions that were dubbed the "you suck" speech. That inevitably would end with him going, "You suck." I mean, this little Irish guy from Boston with a fucking handlebar mustache who was smarter than anything saying, "You suck." And I remember the first time that I got it,
sitting there crying.
You got a USAC?
Oh yeah, I got a couple. And
But why do I feel like you were lucky?
because when I look back on it, is when you see it from the outside. All right, so here's this guy who's who's creatively traumatizing these kids. Is if you're not going to be an actor, you leave there going, that guy's an asshole. If you weather that, that's the best. Is how many times as an actor are you in your own head going, you suck, and you gotta keep going. You know, it's just like Chappelle getting booed off at the Apollo. Is when he was sitting there going, this ain't so fucking bad. Is this the worst? Oh, this is the worst. Oh, I can do this. It's the same thing. Is that you suck? When you internalize that and go, and you got to keep going, and then you're going to be brilliant.
That's Glenn Ross, where he goes, you think this is abuse?
Yeah.
You can't take this. How are you going to take the abuse you get on a sit?
Yeah.
And a sit is a sales call.
Yeah.
Wow.
So weird. Just I have so much to share with you. But so I started my first play I was a freshman, and then at back to school night, which my mother would usually only come to. My dad decided to come to that one. I was like, why are you coming? And he came, and we walk into. Can I have one?
It's nicotine.
I know.
It's 6 milligrams of nicotine. I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Okay, let's just play it out. The Maharishi it's for beginners.
You're comfortable with that amount?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So my dad comes to back to school night, and we walk into the theater, and my dad looks at Doctor. His name is Dr. Ford. Looks at Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford looks at him. They both scream, run, and my dad grabs him in a bear hug and picks him up. And I go, "What the fuck is going on?" And Dr. Ford said, when he was younger, my dad was an actor. He was on Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And my dad was on the $25,000 pyramid. And so is Dr. Ford, being this smarty pants that he was on Jeopardy and $25,000 pyramid, and won Jeopardy and won $25,000 pyramid with my father. As my father and him won the $25,000.
What a crazy synchronicity.
And he says to him, and he goes, the money that I won on $25,000 pyramid, I used to get my doctorate. He goes, I'm a doctor because of that money that your father. And I was like,
how much did he win? I'm just kidding.
It's
in the name.
And the craziest part was back is a week later. I come home from school. I turn on the TV and I saw it. I turn on that point where they were sitting, and I was like,
shut up.
It was wild. It was wild.
Your whole life was folding in on itself,
dude. So there are so many of those.
Winks.
There's so many. Is those are the type of experiences that have been happening to me my entire life, and I live in that space. And the less that you're affected by them, the more that they come. Right.
Wow.
But in any case, those types of teachers I've always
like Whiplash.
Yeah.
I worry that I watch Whiplash. Mm-hmm. I even hear that story and I'm like, I don't love it if someone yelled at my daughter like that. And then I'm also aware. I'll put it like this. I loved teaching my daughter how to swim because the pool was a much harsher teacher than I was.
Yeah.
Because I'm too doting.
Yeah.
But the pool would make her cough up water.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I watched her learn how to swim. And it wasn't just Dada being there and helping her.
Yeah.
It was when she got dunked and like scared and all that stuff. And I was like, these teachers are mimicking nature, or they're mimicking an aspect of reality.
That's exactly right. To me, the there's a million teachers out there who are strict and trying to impose something that they've learned in a certain way. But for me, it's always been an energetic thing. When you know that there's no ego behind what they're doing, it feels different.
Yeah,
this has nothing to do with them. is this has to is it's like that there I forget the name of the deity, but there's a Buddha with like 10 different heads, and the idea is, and the ones near the top are sort of like animalistic and wrathful, and the idea is that you have to have access to all of these different. If somebody's you have to meet people where they are, and even for compassionate beings is if you have to be in a wrathful state to be able to access the person.
Right.
And
those stories about the teacher that goes up to a student while they're walking in the garden and he hits them with a stick?
No.
And he's like, if you were being present, you would have heard me coming, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you not hear a guy running up behind you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fierce.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, to me, I've always just been very acutely aware of like, is this the person? Or and I've always just resonated with, you follow the teaching, not the teacher. Is if you tune into the teaching, and what's that old saying, which is like, even the dirt from a holy man's clothes will make you clean. Is if they're just using the parts of the personality to color the situation, then that's fine. But the foundation of it is something greater. It's not a personal trip.
Right. And how did this tie back to Taj?
It's just that she's been a teacher that takes, if you're going to study under her, is you're going to get.
What
this
is your
stuff.
relationship? Do you go to the classes, or do you have like a one-on-one kind of thing, or is that even available?
Yeah, I go to the classes. Have been going for years and years, and I remember talking about this relationship that I've had, this resonance with the sort of teacher-student, guru, disciple relationship that I hold so dearly. Is it was a big snag for me. Was they were doing a Kundalini yoga teacher training, and something was telling me to go, and you fight with that part, and you go, it goes, you're going. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And something said, well, ask her whether you should go or not. And she was having a conversation with somebody else after class, and I walk up to her, and I'm walking up, and she's in the middle of conversation, and she just goes, you're going. And I went,
wow.
I was like, all right, okay. So, but even then, when I was in the training, I was in the middle of training, and you're putting in all of your hours and doing all of this stuff and learning everything, and then it's supposed to be your first time, like your training wheels of teaching somebody. You're supposed to just buddy up with somebody and teach them, a very, very 3-minute meditation, and it comes to that part, and I go and I hide in the fucking bathroom, and I was like, what is this? I was like, I did not want to be the teacher. Huh. It did not, held such reverence for the institution of what it is to teach.
Oh, yeah.
To transmit something.
Yeah.
Ram Dass would talk about that all the time. He's just like, look, he's like, I haven't lost one of my neuroses. Is I'm not realized. Is I'm a teaching, not a teacher. Is so, but then slowly I came back out, and there was this old guy, big long beard and big like this, and he was the guy who got put to me, and I was like, and he goes, I was like, all right. So I sat there and I taught him the first meditation, and then I was like, oh, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then it was also, there was a revelatory process that I'm interested to hear your perspective on too, because a lot of the things I see you communicating to other people, I see the look on their face that I've seen so many people I speak to, is that's so transparent, that's so foundational, and I realized that maybe I did have some perspective that could be of service, that could actually, is where you've spoken about it before, about this need to give advice, and how that can drive people crazy, is when I've always been of the same mind, is when I see people lead with a weakness or live by a weakness, I just go like, we can do this. We can get this out of the way.
You should have seen me at the farmer's market yesterday. I was joking, making fun of myself, and I was like, "What's a problem you have? Let me help." Because I was catching myself being very advicey, but I just check in now. I go, "Is everybody liking this?"
Yeah.
But you can't even trust them to say no.
No. I remember when you were talking with Rainn Wilson, who I know Rainn, also, and you were talking, and I forget exactly what you were talking about, but it was about being able to do something or not do something, and you were saying, "Yeah, but don't."
It was parents did the best they could.
Right.
Was that it?
Yeah.
I still think about it.
And you were like, and I've so been there, and you were like, and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to pull out a good metaphor.
Yeah.
And Rainn was just locked
teetering.
He was locked into, no, they could have done better.
Yeah.
You're like, if they could have,
they would have.
Yeah. And the analogy that I always use is like, well, if you're at the gym, you don't try not to lift the weight.
Yeah.
You don't go that, if a dog doesn't do a behavior, it's not trying not to do it.
Yeah. Rainn was, for those that didn't listen, Rainn was saying, I said your parents did the best they could. Yeah. And he said, did they? They could have done better.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is even the notion, there's a humility to it, the notion that you could do better, or that you could learn from somebody, or you could ask for help, or you could read a book, or what were their resources, what was their curiosity level, how many of their needs were being met. Then I stick firmly to like they did as best they could.
Yeah.
They would like to, but they might not even be aware of the potential of a better situation.
Right.
So they don't even know what they're going for.
Yep.
So that's the best they could do.
Yep. And it's a slippery slope. I get it. Is like in terms of, because a lot of the times, when we experience some kind of trauma, especially if it's parental, is, if we come out the other side of it, we go, yeah, but if they wouldn't have done this, then I wouldn't be who I am now.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the times there is enormous validity in that, insofar as like, my parents chased me with a gun up a mountain, and if they wouldn't have chased me with that gun, I don't know if I'd be up this mountain. It's like, well, we don't need to totally excuse that behavior.
Yeah, it can be both.
It can be both.
Go ahead.
That's it. Go ahead.
I was thinking Byron Katie has that quote where she goes, "You can argue with reality, but you'll only lose every single time."
Yeah.
And then when her teaching the work, which I find very profound, if you apply it to this situation, my parents could have done better. There's a lot of assumptions there, one of which is my parents should know what I want, what I would have liked.
Yep.
They should have known what my standard and my desires were.
Yep.
They don't. They're just, who knows what they're doing? I have to do this with my own folks.
The thing that I always like about that, somebody said this once, and I went, oh, I'll use that one, which is just like, expectation is just resentment wearing different clothes. It's just in disguise.
Yeah.
Is any expectation is just, you're just waiting to go. That's one that I use.
I love that because I always say expectation's the enemy of comedy, meaning if I think it's going to be something, it's going to be, I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I can have a desire that it be good, but you have to be, like you said, curious to what it is.
Yeah.
But to who your parents are and to what the mountain is.
And in relation to comedy it's why I've always felt like punchlines. Yeah, I remember always need to be surprising and inevitable.
That's what Matt Johnson said.
Oh, did he say the same thing?
I loved it. I'll never forget it.
Okay.
So I'm so glad you said it.
Maybe
because
I'm just reiterating.
No, did you listen to that one?
Yeah.
Surprising but inevitable.
Yeah.
I was going to go a different place because I've always had a weird relationship with the idea of punchlines. I don't like that it's reduced to like, and that's the funny line, as if that's what's going on. And I've always likened that to saying like an erection is blood and semen rushing to the phallus. Like, get the fuck out of here. Because again, I did a show recently, and it was one of those great nights where you kind of steal the night. It's one of my favorite things. Everybody's doing great, but then you go up and you figure something out.
Yeah.
You merge with the audience in a way. And I'm like, it's not because I had better punchlines. It had so much to do, just like sex, phallus, blood, it had to do with eye contact. It had to do with a vulnerability.
Yeah.
It had to do with like folding them into the experience, letting them in, telling them that they were good, not to manipulate them, but I was really being like, you guys are great. That joke didn't work. That stinks. You just cut it. And they're like going nuts. Now it's an incredible set. It had nothing to do with the punchlines. Those are the notes on the paper, but like the spirit of the pianist playing it, that's what we're really engaging with. You know what I'm saying?
Man, thank you. But I really, is 6-year-old Ryan is thanking you, because I've been a comedy savant since I was younger, and I've never heard somebody talk about it the way that I've felt about it.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I never got, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I was younger. I had no interest in acting at all. But I also knew that, I've always been drawn to the sort of, me personally, my personal, preferences are like kind of like the umami of comedy, is the people who are, to me, Bamford is Mick Jagger. She's doing something that is, or
it's all X Factor.
Yeah,
it's all something special.
Yeah, but it's people who are really. I referenced this before when I was texting you. I remember Mitch Hedberg when
I was just thinking about it.
Like
before you said it.
Yeah, early on when he had a stand-up bass guy who stood behind him, or there's a guy out there now.
Chuck.
Yeah.
When the joke doesn't work, pick it up, Chuck. Yeah.
And listening to Mark Forward. Mark Forward is doing some wild out there stuff, and also like those sort of truth tellers like Gerard and stuff. And I knew that the courage or the I didn't have those bones. Is that I wouldn't like what I was able to offer. Because that's what I liked, and I didn't want to go. There's a lion tamer quality of being a stand-up, and I didn't, and I knew what I would probably become in that process of in taming the audience. But to hear you talk about folding them in is everything that as a soul, purpose,
that's right.
is just
it's emerging.
It's a beautiful thing to hear you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I remember reading a lot of books when I was. That meant I loved every part of that. I'm not dismissing it. When I read books about stand-up and they would give examples of what a punchline was, I still remember what it was. It was what was it? I'm a writer. I write a lot of checks. It's fine. Mostly fiction. That was the three. Yeah. They go, the setup is I'm a writer. The punchline is I write a lot of checks. Yeah. The tag is mostly fiction. Yeah. And that's all fine. But I remember reading that and thinking about Robin Williams live at the Met or whatever it was. I was like, I'm really firmly of the opinion that no one's coming to hear, no, I'm a writer. I write a lot of checks. And when I thought about Mitch, who writes jokes like that. Yep. Do you want a frozen banana? No, but I want a regular banana later, so yeah. So it's just a joke. Yep. But when you think about him, you're thinking about an essence. I'm thinking about his smile and his glasses and his hair, not just his image, but what he communicated. Right. You wanted to be at that guy's lunch table. And the jokes, I feel very firmly, were an excuse to hang out in his energy. Yep. And then to recreate in that space. Yep. And to just, what if we looked at the world through this guy's eyes? Not for his ego, but for the break of it, for the joy of it. Yep. And like, that's what I think about when I think about Mitch or Steve Martin. Steve Martin's jokes are pretty dumb. I'm not saying that. I think he would agree. Yep. Grandpa bought a rubber. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm saying it's silly. It's a silly joke. Yep. And if I went to an open mic and someone did that poorly, I wouldn't. But if their energy matched the material. Yeah. Also, what I was thinking when you were talking about wanting to be a stand-up, I forget where I heard this, but every artist has to go through a period where they disappoint their own taste. Sure. Like you're not as good as, like you got into it because you knew what was good. And then the humiliation is you have to go through about 10 years of not matching your own standard. Right. And some people never match their own standard. Yeah.
I think for me is that my standard was so versed that I was like, is when I would watch Mitch, especially like his first special or some of his early stuff, when he would come out and he would break the fourth wall by just kind of saying like, "Oh, you don't like me yet."
Yeah,
let
I
it
know.
lay is the savage, whatever the savage courage.
Okay.
Is that kind of stuff.
I'm all about it.
Yeah,
I'm at this is the show that I told you that I won.
yeah,
I hate to say that I won, but I'm just going to own it.
yeah.
Meaning I just won my own set.
Yep.
I brought home a big fucking carcass.
Yep.
It was awesome. I'm watching the show and I'm like, this crowd is tired. This crowd is not into it. I don't know about this. And I'm also, I'm shooing away thoughts like, if you hadn't done this show, you would have tucked Leela in tonight. You would have read books to her. But instead, you're sitting here
Yep.
watching kind of a bad show.
Yeah.
So I go up, and I'm telling you this just because I really feel strongly that you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I go up on stage, and they're done clapping before I've gotten the mic out of the. It's like a.
Yep.
It's nothing.
Yep.
And it dies before I've had time. And I don't dally. I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And I pointed to one guy who I just happened to see was right in the front. And I go, "You didn't clap at all." And he starts clapping, and I go, "No, not until I've earned it."
Yeah.
Then I do my set, and it's fucking. This is a nice little war story. Fucking killer.
Yeah.
Killer. And at the end, I look at him and I go, "Now you can clap." And it
Yeah.
was fucking.
Yeah.
I'm so privileged.
Yeah.
My life is pretty boring in the best way. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. Going around getting eggs from the chickens.
Yeah.
That's my life.
Chop wood, carry water.
And then every once in a while, I go out and I fucking tell someone when to clap. I tell another grown man on a date, and he loves it. And I shake his hand, and we're happy.
Yeah.
Oh, growth, challenge.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Yeah.
What's coming out when Mitch says you don't like me yet? It's a little bit of acknowledging fear, which is a great thing to do with fear, is to label it. You guys didn't even clap for me.
Yeah.
Oh God, how's this gonna go?
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's this whole little arc.
Yep.
And I'm like, for Valerie, it's dance. She goes out and dances, and she comes home with the exact same energy as me when I come home from a set. So I'm not telling anybody to be a comic. I'm saying find the little woods you go into to find whatever it is you eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it should be dark, and it should be a little unpredictable and wild.
Yeah.
Because then, now we can talk about neuroscience. Dopamine is released when expectations are exceeded. So I was like, it's going to be a bad show. And then it was a great show.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
No, that's always the way it works too. I mean, it's like that way with an audition. You walk in there and you try to, and then it never fails. And you walk in there and you go, "I don't give a shit," and they go, "We love you." It's like that old Elias Kazan was looking for the role in Rebel Without a Cause, and he tells the story about when James Dean walked in and he was like, "Yeah, do you have any questions about the material?" He goes, "Yeah, can I use your phone?" And he walks in, he calls his friend and talks on the phone for like 5 minutes with his friend. And he hangs up and he goes, "Yeah, I gotta go." And he leaves, and Elias goes, "That guy."
No shit.
And I think it was a genuine thing. Is that just that he was not. He was what he was. Along those lines, just to tell you a really funny story.
Because if it was fake,
but to
nobody
tell you,
would book that guy.
But I'll tell you another reason why. Just to revisit, I don't know why I'm talking about Jackson so much, but was when he was trying to be an actor, and he said, and he was getting like really down, just like all geniuses, like nobody recognizes any of the shit that he's doing, and I said, "Well, you have to make these auditions fun for you too." And I remember seeing this little twinkle, and I go like, "Oh, fuck!" And so he went on these auditions, and I would ask him about, and I go, what happened?" And he told me these stories, these two stories, and he's my hero because of this. He went into this one audition. They said, do you have any questions about the material? And then he just kind of went into this litany of questions, even down to like why the writer chose this font for the, and asked all of these questions. They kind of humored him, and they said, "Okay." And they said, "You ready?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." And the scene started. The scene started with him coming in a door. So he goes out the door and left. So so they're waiting for him to come in and start the scene, and he'd left. I was like, I love this guy.
My God.
He did another audition.
He didn't get it.
No, he did not get it. He did another one where he did the audition and he did it straight, and then he went to the casting director and he shook his hand and he had $20 in his hand. That's for you.
That
I was like, you.
that is good. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That is just such, but the key is it's not faked. Steve Martin is silly. He does a silly joke. It works.
Yes.
James Dean is that guy.
Yes.
By the way, very similar Luke Perry story to 90210. Did you hear that story?
No.
Apparently he came straight from work and he was in like his work shirt. He took it off. They said he stunk because he was doing construction all day. And I'm pretty sure he smoked a cigarette and everybody was like, and the person that mattered was like, that's Dylan McKay.
Yeah. But you gotta stand by that internal. A lot of the times,
Show us who you are.
You really got to.
But know who you are, and if you don't, we don't want to see your guess.
Yeah, and we don't want to see your best guess either.
Yeah.
Or what you think is your best,
or what you're supposed to be.
Ugh.
That's the comedian that goes up and they're like, "I'm a Bill Burr type."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Have you talked to Bill?" Because he's exactly that.
Yeah.
He's exactly that. He's more balanced and more nuanced, maybe, or gentle.
Yeah.
But it's that.
Yeah.
And that's when it really sings.
Yeah.
Is when you. But then the best work is self work. Is working on yourself, figuring out friends, relationships, projects, all inform your art so much. It's not just. I see comics that just do sets and then they just become the robot that does sets.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Where's the great story? That's why every comic in the 80s was talking about airline peanuts.
Yep.
Because all they were doing was flying.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting.
Yeah, I think I told you. I kind of was, again, like being so enamored with comedy. Also, I grew up with all of these comics. Is back in the late '80s and early '90s when they were handing out, sitcoms to comics, at the airport. Is I don't know how, but my mother became this sort of beacon to the studios.
Yeah. Tell them.
Yeah, and just to comics to teach them how to act.
Wow.
So I would be sitting in the back of her class, and it was just it was George Lopez, George Wallace, Craig Shoemaker, Tim Curry.
You mentioned Tim Allen too.
Yeah, Tim Allen, yeah. And one of my favorite George Wallace stories was there was this girl who was very new to acting, and she had an audition where she had to be changing her clothes, and she was a bit overweight, and so she was in front of the class, putting her pants on, and she was really nervous, and my mom kind of like talked her through it and got her up and got her feeling good about it, and immediately afterwards, George Wallace walks up there and he just goes, "This is for you, baby," and he drops his pants and he's wearing leopard underwear. And I was like, "Oh, I love this guy." And then another one of those synchronistic things was when I did Lady Killers. He played the sheriff in Lady Killers, and I was like, "I'm Candy Kanecki's," and he goes, "Oh my God, I remember you." Da 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 da.
Wow.
But there was a funny Tom Hanks bit of that too. Is when I was in Lady, you'll like this, was so the two VHS tapes that I had was.
You kind of sounded like Tom Hanks just then.
People have said that before. I don't know
I'm
why.
getting a lot of bridges. I've been waiting to say,
okay.
Buddy,
Yeah.
Kundalini.
You got me.
Russell Brand and I just love doing some breath work. It's our thing. It's what we're about, man.
So, two funny Tom Hanks bit was one, so I go in the makeup trailer, I'm getting my makeup done, and he's in there, and he's doing the old actor prep shtick, red leather, yellow, and he's doing all this stuff. And I look over at him and he goes, "Yeah, I do all that garbage." And I go, and it made me feel so good. There was that.
It's like James Hetfield in Some Kind of Monster going,
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It was like the most metal guy.
So beautiful.
Me.
You have to do it.
Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck your ego. Do it. Get in the stairwell.
But that, and then we did a scene. We did a scene where he had this long monologue, and they shot everybody else's coverage first, and he was nailing it. And then I turned around onto him, and he kept fucking. And he turns to me, and he goes, "Don't you fucking hate that. He goes, the camera's not on you, and you can't go wrong. And he goes, put it on you.
Yeah.
And I go, oh my God, I love that so much. But the funny bit was the other VHS tape that I had was Punchline. Is watched it over and over and over and over again. To speak to one of the reasons why I ended up not becoming a comic was I remember there's a little bit in that movie when they're sitting in the diner, which is like one of the best scenes, and he's like eating the food in such a fucking charismatic way, and Sally Fields is talking to him, and he about being a comic and what she thinks it is to be a comic, and he just goes, "What do you need it for? You have your life. What do you need it for?" And I remember even being
fierce,
young, and kind of going, there are things that I need, but I don't need it like that. That part I don't, for whatever reason, there's another need that I have to scratch, but it's not that. And I know, and something in me said, unless you have that,
well, that's what I tell comics. Mm-hmm. They go like, I tried it and then I stopped for 4 years, and I'm like, I don't say stop, but in my head I'm going like, you know, maybe it didn't bite you, and that's okay.
There was a friend of mine growing up who was a boxer, and he was really good. And I met him, and he, I don't know if he went Golden Globes or went to the Olympics. And then I met him years later, and I said like, and he was, I forget what he was doing, but he was not boxing anymore. And I go, what about boxing? And he goes, you know, I was raised as a boxer. I was boxing my whole life, loved it. And he goes, and then I fought somebody who really wanted to be a boxer.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay. I was like, I get it.
That is a great, you're full of such great little stories. It's amazing.
But the Tom Hanks bit was, we were in between takes. It was fantastic.
Can I just stop?
Yeah.
Then I met someone who really wanted to.
Yeah, isn't that good?
So
I remember I said it, and I was just like, it was such a whirl. I was like, yeah, that's a pill. Yeah, I get you.
So right.
Yeah.
Yes. Go on. Tom Hanks.
But Tom Hanks, like meeting the Dalai Lama. I'm dropping names everywhere. Yeah. Was just doesn't disappoint. He's exactly just like Bill. He's exactly what you want out of Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
He is the most down to earth, smartest, hardworking, amazing human being. He called me on the weekend. He was like, "Yeah, you want to go to a Dodger game?" I was like, "Yes, I want to go to a Dodger." I mean, it was just fantastic. Wow. But we're sitting there, and we're in between takes, and it was me, him, and J.K. Simmons was in Whiplash, and
wow.
and Marlon Wayans, and we're sitting there talking, and we're riffing about something, and he tried to pirate one of his lines from Punchline. He goes like, we were talking about superheroes or something, and he goes like, yeah, and Wonder Woman, you know, she has an invisible jet. How did she find it? And like I was vomited out of my mouth the rest of his set, and I went, you know, I went, table guy, you know, he fights crime at dinner for 4, you know, big lady. I would just run into the entire, and he just looks at me, he goes, "You're fucking weird." I go, yeah.
What if he took your hand and went, "That'll get me through the game"?
There you go.
That'll get me through the game. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Still amazing, though.
Yeah.
He probably loved it secretly.
Yeah. He's a sweet
But what
guy.
do you say? So you met the Dalai Lama as well?
Crazy. You know, I'm not even going to go into that whole story of how I ended up there.
Golden ticket and a chocolate bar?
Pretty much. I'll tell it to you off camera. It's a quite a woo-woo. Is for somebody who lives in Woo-Wooville, it was up there.
Really?
About how and why it all transpired. But he was like Tom Hanks. He didn't disappoint. He was that guy.
I kind of want to hear the story.
Yeah, I'll tell it to you. It's just because it's one of those things, kind of like sometimes those experiences are so sort of out there that when you tell them, you feel like you're bringing.
Yeah,
and I don't want to.
I get it.
So, but in any case, the question, you know, I was there for an hour, and he goes, you know, do you have a question? And I was there sort of for a different reason. But the question that I asked was comedy related. As I said, you know, I once heard you speak, and you were saying that humor and comedy is your secret weapon. And I said, how how would you suggest that people integrate laughter more formally into their spiritual practice? And he gave me one of these. And that was sort of the teaching. And then he went into talking about the nature of like sort of Om-heartedness, or like agape, that sort of that loving compassion, and spoke on that. But yeah, that was phenomenal.
Wow.
That was phenomenal.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't really cover spirituality the whole way, so I feel like we don't have to. But you are a Sikh?
Ish. Yeah.
Sikh-ish?
Yeah.
Do you have a knife on you?
No, I don't. I usually cover my head.
Sikhs carry knives. That's to be helpful, not to be scary.
And I do always wear my kara. I would consider myself a Sikh, is I haven't taken Amrit, which is like the Orthodox version of becoming Sikh, but is out of all the religions that I sort of investigated and really kind of like it's one of those ones that I have no logical way of explaining why it resonated with me. Out of everything that I'd studied, everything that I'd practiced, everything that I'd believed, there was just the first time that I went to India, that I went to Amritsar, it was it just must have been some past life thing. Is the Gurmukhi, the language, and all of the trappings of it, for whatever reason that I had no experience, none with, felt like home to me. And I was like, huh. And I'm still continually in awe of why this resonates so profoundly for me.
You know that Bob Thurman story? He went to Tibet, I think, and he learned Tibetan in like 3 weeks, and he was like, that's because I used to speak it.
Yeah.
I just don't remember.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was like, that's so fucking cool.
Absolutely.
That's Uma Thurman's dad.
Yeah.
But I heard him tell that story. I was like, that reminds me of that.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, no, is when I went to India, I was having these dreams that I was inside of the Golden Temple, which is kind of like the epicenter of Amritsar, which is the Golden Temple is one of the largest religious structures on the planet, and I had these dreams that I was inside there cleaning, and then I was speaking with one of the Sevadars, the guys who run the place, and I told one of them that, and they're like, well, let's see. And then we tried to get me in there just to be able to go in, and then they closed it, and they started cleaning it. And there are these guards out there, these guys called Nihungs, which are like the savage guys, these big giant guys with spears and all this kind of stuff. And one guy goes up and talks and says, like, can you let him in there? And he said, no. And I just kind of stood there and just kind of like, in the best way that I could, just open my heart and kind of like, and I just stood there. And this guy watched me for about 20 minutes, just staring at me. And he goes like this, and he points to this big iron bowl. And he goes, go over and pick up this bowl, and he goes, put it on my head, and he goes, I walk in there.
With the bowl on your head?
Yeah. Just part of the cleaning process. They were just cleaning the joint. And I bring it, and I put it down, and I go, come in here. And then there's all these Sabadars all dressed in white singing, and they hand me a broom, and I'm like, wow.
It's your dream.
Yeah. I was like, wow. And there was a lot of things like that. But Sikhism, for me, it's been the only religion, formal religion, that I haven't found a dogma that limits for me. It's just so the way that I always put it is like, in the human experience, like Sikhs to me are always like Boy Scouts. They're always going to be cool. They're always going to be there to help you across the street. You can walk up to any Sikh and say like, hey, can I have your shoes? They'll go like, yeah, here's my take
Right, big service.
It's just big service. Is that there hasn't been any dogma that I have personally run into that is not anything but welcoming and of service. That there's it's incorporative of every other religion. It has this vibratory effect that for me is if there's a certain sound and I'm the wine glass, is whatever reason, it really, really feels like home to me. And
It just feels like home, man.
it really does. Which is so freaking weird.
I love it.
You know,
I'm
it's
glad you
so
found
weird.
it. I'm glad you found it.
Yeah.
Is it non-dually at the bottom?
Absolutely, completely, totally. Wow. Ego dissolution is the joint. Is there's enormously synchronistic things between Hinduism, bits of Hinduism, and especially Buddhism. Is all the different forms of Buddhism, but is along with that is really this idea of service. Is Amritsar is the largest free kitchen on the planet. Is as a part of the the church, is they have the largest kitchen, so anybody can go there at any time, 24 hours a day, and get food and get food. But yeah, it feels amazing to me.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's no way we got to everything on your notes.
No.
That's just bound to happen.
No.
Is there one thing you want to hit on the notes before I ask you the time you laughed the hardest in your life?
Let's see. I have two things real quick. Has anybody brought up the reason why everybody loves to see you and Birbiglia, slow boy Birbiglia, together? There's a definite Yogi and Boo Boo going on there. Has nobody?
Am I Yogi?
Yes,
I better be Yogi. I was talking to him on the phone the other night, and I go, I wish we were rolling on it because I go, you know what you look like? You look like a guy who's had a hard couple months. I was like, that's just your look.
Yeah.
No matter how your life is going, you look. If you go, I've had a hard couple months. We're like,
my wife and I do. We do quote him just because our daughter. We don't know where she got it, but this is her new thing. Is shh, shh. We don't even do that. She just goes shh. So when we start talking, she goes shh.
Yeah, that's the age where they go, don't talk.
Yeah, and I just go, she doesn't like it when we talk.
She wants us to be quiet.
So fun. Yogi Boo Boo.
Let's see. Joe Cam's Ram Dass, mentor face melting, homesickness, being under the blanket with God, great stuff. Space heater parent. That has been my style. When you talking about being a space heater as a parent, that's like what I've always felt like.
I said that? I don't remember saying that.
You said I just want to be a space heater for her.
Yeah.
She was sitting there doing Legos, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
Literally.
Space heater.
Well, because at the end of the day, what are we going to be?
Of course I like it. I said it.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, what are we, to me, it's like we're just, the end of the road is that we're going to be a voice in their head. We're going to be an experience, and we're going to be a guardian angel, hopefully trying to help them along. So the most that you can prep them for that, the better.
Interstellar, we live to be our children's ghosts.
Yep.
Ghosts to our children, like just a memory. And I didn't make it up, but it's like we're gardening. I'm here to pick weeds, give you sunlight, give you water.
Yep.
Pick weeds, sunlight, water. I tell her all the time, I just go, is this your first?
Yes.
I just go, I'm here to help. I'm on your team. I don't understand. Like when she's yelling, I'm just like, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
Like I want you to go to Taekwondo because you love it.
Yeah.
And then she goes and I go, did you love it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you remember? Like she's getting there. She's getting that. Then the other one, because I'm very generous. Someone told me spoiling is an outdated thing. But anyway, I don't want to give her too much because I don't want her to think that's what love is or that's the only place where joy is. But I like to say if I'm giving her too much love, I'm like, wait till she meets God. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I go, as long as you think, if you have someone modeling abundance and generosity to you, and it's not just for this reason, but I'm like, then she won't settle for somebody that's
exactly right.
That's what I'm trying.
Well,
to
you're
do.
setting a vibratory signature.
This is what it looks like.
This is what,
and this is what it looks like with Mom too. Like the way she sees me with Val.
So when she sees that in somebody else, she goes, "Oh, that's home."
That's right. These are all those unconscious patterns.
Enormous
that we're trying to
enormously.
Yeah.
My mother was a master teacher of a mother. Is like when especially being a parent now and watching what she did, and also just being a teacher, she was the Eric Clapton. She was the soft hand of everything. Is her ability to understand that the only way to teach is through the side door. It's never for the front door.
Yeah.
And I remember like when I was, I was in high school and I was doing drugs and this and that. And I was always totally open with my parents, never lied. As I would go, I'm doing this and, and just couldn't lie.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was doing drugs and she just took me aside and she said, and it was such a master stroke move. It was such a mic drop as a parent. She was like, I just want you to know that the people that you're hanging out with, that you're doing drugs with, you have so much more to lose than they do. Walked away.
Wow.
I was like, when I think about me being in that position, fucking is to the walk away was the big one. I was like, is
that you know what that is? You're going.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
But it's the walk away is I have faith in you.
Yeah.
To be
You're empowering them to figure that out on your own.
Yeah, but it's a very spiritual concept. I remember I was watching some Disney movie lately. I forget which one it was. One with the water dragon. I forget the name of it.
No. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that so bluntly.
Aquafina played.
Yeah. Raya.
That's a beautiful concept
Leela
at the end of
Raya.
it. At the end of that, that's a complex concept. And I have two more things to say. Is at the end of it, it's just what I took away from that movie is trusting somebody who doesn't deserve to be trusted transforms them.
Yeah.
That's a complex thing. Which is such a...
Because the dragon's like, let's go to our enemy with a gift.
Yeah.
And they're like, but that won't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work in the direct way, but it does work. It's crazy.
But it is to be the lighthouse for somebody, teaches somebody to be a lighthouse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just to bring this back to comedy is like wonderful. I remember you talk about it a lot of the time as at their base layer, everybody, when you get them relaxes Enya, which is like Buddha field, Buddha mind.
Yeah, bring
Wonderful.
Anyone down to their base.
Wonderful.
Their Enya.
Wonderful stuff.
Nobody's speed metal down there.
It reminds me of a Emo Phillips bit that I've loved since it was my favorite bit of his was when I was younger. Because it shows you how we actually operate. It's a complex little joke. And he goes, I was walking down the street and I saw my friend Timmy from elementary school. And I ran up to him and I picked him up and I said, Timmy, 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 it's so good to see you. And Timmy began to cry. And then I realized he would have grown up too. And I was,
oh my God.
But that's the way that we live our life, is we project these things onto everything.
Yes, we're not seeing the world.
Yeah.
I just told that. Who was I telling that to? Oh, Val. We walked our baby to school today in the wagon.
Yeah.
And it was really fast for me, and it was really slow for her. She was like, that seemed to take forever. And I was like, look, I'm not Pete-splaining anything, but I've really been tripping out on we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
Yeah.
And I was like, one of the first things I noticed, especially getting up so early, is I see how is time today.
Yep.
Really what I'm saying is, how am I today?
Yep.
The cold plunge went really fast today.
Yep.
The priming went really fast today. The reading went, everybody was awake before I knew it. So I already was like, oh, time's going fast today. And time was going slow for Val. That's not bad, but the walk seemed really fast for me.
Yep.
But it was because... it sounds like I'm instructing Val, but I was like, it was just a little cobwebby in there. So it was a little gunky.
Yep.
And I bet she doesn't feel that way right now because she's done her things.
Yeah.
And she's cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can never, I mean, it's like that mind-only school of Buddhism, which is like we can never actually perceive what reality is. We can only perceive what we've experienced in the past.
Yeah.
It's like we're always up against that. We're living life like it's a rerun. That's the big stuff. And the more that you get that stuff out of the way, it's one of the most beautiful, and why I am so endeared to Ram Dass is those last few years, what was the mantra?
Yeah.
I firmly believe that as spirits, if there's any reason why we're sort of, whether you can see it as a gift or a prison, sort of like quarantined on this plane of existence, is because every atom of us is not enveloped in
Yeah.
wow. Is that place.
And wow is a vulnerable place.
It's a beautiful.
The guy that's going, wow, gets sucked into the tornado. So the survival mind goes, don't do wow.
Yeah.
Don't do wow.
Yeah.
Look at exits.
Yeah.
Like never sit with your back in a restaurant, all that stuff. But the wow we're back where we began. The contemplative gaze is being vulnerable enough to actually allow something new to happen.
But I agree and I disagree. I think that at its core, that wow is impenetrable. Is anything that bumps up against it is, if it's met with resistance, that's just an egoic thing. It's just a dualistic thing. That's the trap. Whether it's a modality, a method, a religion, or whatever, or an expectation, is like anything that is, nothing is going to actually take away that wow. You get swept up by the tornado. Fucking wow. That's okay too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big
A
lesson.
wow that transcends your life situation.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing? I thought you had two things, or maybe those were the two things. You've given us more than.
I know.
More than enough.
I know.
I don't mean time-wise. I just mean you've packed it with
I'm
goodness.
trying to get good stuff. I love the fact that your laugh reminds me of Slim Pickens writing the fucking Dr. Strangelove. The abandon that your laugh has. Have you ever read a book called The Origin of Consciousness?
No.
And the breakdown of the bicameral mind?
No.
That's a fun one.
Really?
That's a fun one because it deals a lot with. It talks about how as early as like 2,000 or 5,000 years ago that the way, and based in literature, it's a fun one, is
The origin of consciousness.
Yeah, the origin of consciousness in the breakdown of the bicameral mind. And it's this neuroscientist guy who basically said that the way that we experience the world via looking at all of the literature that's ever been written informs that the ways that the brain communicated with the hemispheres has drastically changed. And the way that he puts it is essentially that instead of you, Pete, having an idea and going, oh, I had an idea, and that being that there's actually interconnection between the hemispheres, is that the way that we experience the world was through auditory hallucinations. Is whether is that isn't me thinking it, it's not me perceiving it, it's God speaking to me. And how it's not the origin of perception, it's the origin of what we consider to be consciousness. It's a fun one. And what he talks about is the eruption, the beginning of metaphor, and you've talked a lot about metaphor, and about that, the guy didn't run like a deer, he is a deer. And it's a fun little one to tinker around with in the brain, is like the idea of a metaphor. That's like some alien technology shit. That's like a thought virus that is, when you really think about, all right, so if you took metaphor out of the equation,
Would be lost, yeah.
is what's going on with what metaphor really does to us as humans in our ability to experience the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there was that.
I love that. You know what it reminded me of? I don't know if you'll feel that this is as on topic as I do, but let's say it's all awareness.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's all awareness.
Yeah.
I feel this, but I'm aware of the feeling.
Yep.
This ultimately is awareness,
Yep.
being experienced by awareness. And Pete's a character in the dream, but the real dreamer is consciousness itself. Then you're like, okay, so let's go back to an origin myth for today.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how does naked, alone awareness, objectless, just knowing,
Yep.
manifest the world?
Yep.
Because we've always been curious about that. Then I was like, well, what the fuck are you doing all goddamn day?
Yeah.
You hear
Yeah.
a song in your head.
Yeah.
You created a song.
Yeah.
You picture your grandfather.
Yeah.
You created an image. Okay, if you're not on board, every night you dream an entire world.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
It's not as crazy ex nihilo, the Latin out of nothing.
Yep.
You're creating ex nihilo
Correct.
every fucking second.
Yes.
You've never done anything except
Yeah.
what we can't wrap our minds around.
Yeah.
I always say, picture Michael Jordan. How the fuck are you doing that?
Yeah.
That's how the world got
Yeah.
made.
Very good. I love that. I love that. I love that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here just because
Okay.
I got a thing.
Okay.
Who cares?
Thank you.
You don't need to know that.
Thank you.
My
very,
pleasure.
Very, very much.
You
for this.
do you have a hardest laugh moment in your life? You don't have to.
I don't have a hardest laugh one, but I do. Are you still doing UFOs?
Yeah, of course.
This is again like one of the
What do you? I got the chills. We're all in.
the laugh one was really quick. It was that experience with Jackson when I jumped out of the plane. I laughed all the way down. I was sitting there flying.
That's where we're going, right?
Flying in the sky, going, "This motherfucker."
Wow.
The
Is skydiving like cold plunging? Does it feel like a similar like boost of
absolutely
all the good feelings?
is absolutely. I was hooked by skydiving the very first time that I did it 25 years ago. I'm a Superman guy. Always been a Superman guy. Always wanted to fly, and I remember. Went up for my first tandem jump, and I'm nervous and excited, and I'm scared. And they open up the side of the plane, and this little Japanese woman looks at me with no fear and goes, "Bye-bye," and jumped out. And I went, it was this revelatory. Before I left, I went like, "You can jump out of a plane and have
No fear.
And I was like, oh, I'm doing this until I'm not afraid. I was like, it was just like I didn't know you could do that.
And you can now?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, so that was that story.
That's awesome.
But yes, it is.
UFO.
It's just like it's the most amazing. It's just like a cold plunge. You're flying. You're
and the feelings. I know it's silly to compare it to sitting still in cold water. But that rush that you get has to be, it's like saying there's only one happiness. There's only one excitement. So I just imagine you're getting a big dose of the same kind of feeling.
Enormous.
Yeah. And does it fade or do you get it similar?
It does fade. It's kind of like being, it's just like when you're in a cold plunge, if you try to do 12 minutes in 26-degree water, it's like there is a numbness. I remember because I'm a free flyer, which means you can fly in your head and fly in your back and all this kind of stuff. Wow. And again, I had little did I know at the time, but I became friends with the 6-time world champions, free flyer, who was just a cool dude. And then somebody was like, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, I was working on something early into flying. I was like trying to master, head down or something. And I remember flying in the air, and I was worried about trying to do it something a certain way. And then I remember going like, holy shit, like I'm not afraid at all. Like I was like, oh, I crossed the finish line, and I didn't even know that. I was like, oh, right. I'm like working on this instead of being afraid at all. So,
how much respect do you have? This sounds like I don't know what this sounds like, but I mean it, and I really want to know. How much respect do you have for like the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible jump that they did over and over, and they shot it practical, and the camera guy's jumping out first like this?
Yeah.
Is that incredible to you, or are you like, oh yeah, you can do that?
It's like you watching a comic. It's kind of like, yeah, all right.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
so cool. I've never talked to somebody that would be like, yeah, sure.
Because I don't know, like 2,500 jumps is
2,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the best part that I look back on that is that Jackson and my other friend Mike came up right behind me, and I don't jump as much now because having a daughter and all that, but there's a lot of videos of just to know that I learned to fly with my friends, and there's a bunch of videos of us all just flying together, and videos of us just like it was two of my best friends in the sky, hanging out.
My friend Sam just told me this. He's like, depressed people that need to be immersed in community doesn't just mean going to a dinner party. It means engaging in a challenging project with other people.
Yep.
So that I buy a million times, that you're like, we risked our lives, we faced fear together.
Yep.
That's why the phenomenon that, like, in World War II, London is being bombed, and some of the people say it was the scariest time in my life. It was the best time in my life, because everybody had one purpose.
Absolutely.
And it was life and death, and life was vital.
Yeah.
And community was your oxygen.
Yep.
And that's what that's what can cure depression.
And at the same time, it goes.
I shouldn't say cure depression. You know what I mean? It's the enemy of depression. That's what I'll say. Sorry.
I was talking with Dalai, who was on. He was one of the. He's an actor, but also a military supervisor on all the movies. You've seen. You go, oh, that guy. But we were soldiers, and he was on that, and then he was on Saving Private Ryan, and him and I were talking sort of like over the fire one night, and I was talking about because he'd been in Vietnam, and he told me a story just that helped me play the part better, but also just emotionally realize it. So he was talking about that sort of the intimacy that happens when when there's a challenging thing, is when life and death. He said the relationship that you make with the people that are in your troop is closer than your mother, your father, your brother, your wife. He says there's an intimacy there that is untouched by anything else because of the stakes. Yeah. And then he said, and then that person that you have this intimacy with is killed, and he said, and the first thought that you have is, thank God it wasn't me.
Wow.
And he goes, and that's the part that ruins people. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Right. It's not, I thought you were going to go full noble and be like, that should have been me.
No.
But really the way that we're wired as self-preservational animals is, thank God that wasn't me, and you can't handle that guilt.
And it can't.
Or the shame, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, UFO.
Yeah. So, was not into UFO, not a part of my...
This is a key part of the story, because the guys there, smoking a J, looking at the sky, it's always a little bit convenient when they're like, I saw 28 UFOs.
Nothing. It was not a part of my anything.
Yeah.
I had no... People say UFOs. I go, sure. I wasn't... But it's totally dispassionate to the whole scenario. In my early 20s... besides the fact that I had sort of like weird prophetic dreams, like that for my entire life. Like I would visit places that I'd never been before, and then 6 months later I would go there and I would know how to walk around them. Weird things like that. I would leave my body when I was younger.
Oh wow!
Which I thought everybody could do. Like when you're about to go to sleep, I would just kind of pop out and kind of like fly around. I was like, oh, everybody can do that. And my mom was like, what are you talking about?
No way.
Yeah.
Not anymore?
No. Yeah. No, I do.
You can?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I've always been too scared.
Oh, it's fun.
I get real close and I'm like,
it's fun.
nope.
That's what happened to me the first time that it happened. I was at a medium with my dad. My dad was there, and it was some medium was talking, and I was sitting there and I was falling asleep. And I was like 9 or something, and I was like falling asleep. And I felt myself, and I remember feeling my knees in my chest, like this thing lifting out of me. And I got out of my body, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I like kind of like forced my eyes open, and I was like, and I fell.
Oh wow!
I was like,
that's like Robert Monroe. It happened to him involuntarily. He woke up because he felt his ceiling. He felt his back on the ceiling, and he opened his eyes, and he was in the bed. Yeah, and then there's a lot of fear involved.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well,
how do you do it? What's your method?
Is different ways. It's not unlike in a lot of the meditations when they talk about, just retreating from the senses. Is it to me? There's lots of different ways, but it's kind of like taking your hand out of a glove, or like there's different like physical ways that you can visualize yourself doing.
I've heard the roll. There's like the rolling out.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Is the roll.
I've also the rope.
I've never done that for me. That's never
I've also
worked.
done the blue light above you pulling you out.
Yeah, no,
they all get me real close, and I start shaking.
Yeah,
and I hear a whoosh. I hear a loud whoosh.
Yeah,
and then I go,
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Yeah. The shaking is just the nervous system. It's just the spirit disengaging from the nervous system. Your nervous system is firing with lots of peat in there, and you're pulling peat out, and it goes just like when you know. If you watch somebody who does those, tries to hold their breath for 9 minutes, the body starts to do this. When you retreat from the senses, that's what the nervous system.
They fire back.
Yeah, that's what the nervous system does.
Wow.
But I do the roll.
So you get into a deep meditation, and then you just picture your essence rolling out of your body.
But then also, I'm not in complete control of it. Sometimes I've been in meditation, and it will happen involuntarily, and when that happens, it's more like what you're talking about. I will hear a whoosh, and it's really loud and tinny for me. It's real, and that feels much more. I wouldn't say violent, the word, but intense.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah,
and is it the world, or is it the world blurring a little bit? Is it goofy?
No,
it's just the world.
Yeah,
it's just the world.
For the most part, yeah.
Because a lot of the accounts are like, I flew to my friend's house and they were playing with a giant frisbee. And then I called them and I was like, what were you doing? And they were like, we were making pizzas. And it's like, so it's like a little bit off.
Oh, yeah. Not for me.
Not for you.
Not for me.
I'm not from a skeptical place. Have you ever done something like taped a playing card on the side of a window and been like, I'm going to fly and look and see what it is?
No, I've never done it.
You should try it.
Never done it.
Just for your own.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool would that be if you were like, 8 of clubs?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That would be fucking nuts.
I'll do it. I'll
give
it a
please
try.
do it
I'll
and
give
text
it a
me.
try.
Again, not in the spirit of skepticism, but just like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
The first time that it happened to me was that it formally happened was an accident. I was in elementary school. I was coming home on my bike, and I was going down this hill, and I was going as fast as I could, and the bike started to shake, and I must have fallen off. But I didn't scrape my hands. I ended up scraping I must have skid on my face off of. But I blacked out, and I wake up, and everything is orange. Everything in front of my face is orange, and I'm in the middle of the street, and some guy is getting out of his car to check on me, and then I black out again, and I'm in a tree, watching me in the middle of the street, and this guy, and I must be saying to him like, I'm okay. He gets into his car, and I get up, and I watch for 10 minutes as I'm walking my bike all the way back to my house, and I'm just in the tree, just hanging out, just like, oh, there I am.
Whoa.
It was
so your body had agency.
My body had total full control. There was no consciousness in it. I was up in the street, totally just like, which is you want to the after effects of that. Here's the strange bit: is still to this day, if I'm in public and out of the corner of my eye I see somebody who looks like me, I go like, oh well, there I am. It's
I'm over there.
Yeah, it's weird.
Wow,
so
fascinating.
So just the UFO thing was just I started having these dreams. I would be in the middle of a dream, regular fucking weirdo dream. And then all of a sudden, there would be this. I still really struggle to be able to explain it. It's like an explosion of light. There would be this enormous bang. Everything would go white. I would sit up in my bed, and I was vibrating, and my whole body hurt. It was like, and the best way is, it was like I became a bolt of lightning, and it happened quite a few times, and I was like, what is going on? I remember like looking up stuff online, and there's a thing called exploding head syndrome, which is like some nervous thing, and I was like, I had some of the symptoms, but it happened half a dozen times or a dozen times, and then this one night, I was asleep in the middle of a dream, and it happened again. There was this large explosion, bang, everything goes white. I sit up, I'm vibrating like this. I'm sitting up, I'm awake. And I look in the doorway, token fucking little alien dude
What color?
Gray.
Classic.
The business. Eyes, big head,
Little
gray.
body.
And I was like, I'm awake. There, and I remember the first thought that came into my head was, oh, I get it. Why people are afraid of of you. I remember kind of going like, oh, I get it.
No offense.
But it is. I had an understanding. There was something. It was there. There was an alien there. Wow. I have
like biological, like
yes,
breathing,
yes,
like made of fleshy stuff,
like you and me.
Yeah, you know the theory that they're us. They're just the evolved version of us coming back.
Sure.
When you hear Ray Kurzweil talking about by 2030, we're going to have the
singularity is near. Is that what you're talking about?
That guy.
Yeah.
The blood cell size things. I know they're going to clean our arteries, but he's like, they're also going to go to your brain and they're going to connect to the cloud and you're going to have all the information all the time. And this is his words. He goes, it's going to multiply our intelligence by 1 billion.
Yeah.
This, by the way, if you don't know who Ray Kurzweil, he's a futurist and he's been right about everything.
Yeah.
It's been fucking nuts. And this is what he's saying. And he's giving us a timeline 2030. So if that happens, our bodies would get weak. Our eyes would get dark to look at screens and all that sort of stuff. And then there they are. And you're like, I get why you're scary.
Well, yeah, the feeling, the thing that I just remember was I remember going like, oh, I get it why people are afraid because it's not, there is an absence of any emotion. It's not, and it's not that they feel, is that there's nothing, there's no emotion.
Human warmth.
And I remember going like, oh, like now I get why people, you are afraid if this happens.
Well, that's somebody who's might cut you open.
Right.
You know what I mean? It has the coldness of a executioner or a surgeon or a butcher.
Yeah.
So that's frightening.
Yeah. And then what happened was I was there and I was looking and kind of like telepathically communicated for a minute. And then I remember going like, I want to go on the fucking ship, right? Like I go like to start to get out of the bed, like take me on. And
to your leader?
Yeah. And I start to get out of the bed and wham, the same thing happened. There was this bright flash of light, and here was
skydiving son of a gun. Like, not you're scary. Let's go on let's go where you live.
Yeah, and here was the tell for me was there was this white flash of light, and then I'm back in the dream that I was dreaming before.
Whoa!
I was like,
it brought you back a couple clicks.
Or I just remember being in the dream and going. It was, and I lucid dream too. So, but I was like, this is a fake ass dream. Like this is some. I was like, they got some kind of
dream ray.
Yeah, it is. That was the big tell more than anything for me. Even though I knew he was there, I saw him. I was totally awake. I was like, I am awake now. This is not half asleep. I'm not like, this is not sleep paralysis, and I'm shadow people and all that. I am awake. There is an alien. Okay, and then when I got zapped back, I was in the same dream, and I remember going,
that's the tell.
Yeah, so that's my story.
Well, I don't like it. I'm Dracula dead and loving it. I blended a couple. Well, sir, you were a day off for me.
Oh good.
What a joy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, man.
What a gift you are.
Oh, and you.
Would you say... keep it crispy for us?
Yes, of course. Keep it crispy.
Would you say it as Thor from God of War Ragnarok?
Keep it crispy.
Chris Christie?
Keep it Chris. No, let's say keep it crispy.
Ooh, BAFTA.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend.
Of course,
what a joy. Give me that because I
Yes.
got all sweaty in the palm. Thanks, man.
You made it weird. You made it weird.